back against bullies, predators, and peer pressure. MMA Long Island offers group and private lessons for all ages and levels in traditional Goju-Ryu karate, MMA, and self-defense. MMA Long Island is one of Long Island's most affordable martial arts schools. There are no promotion, belt, or membership fees, and family discounts are available. All classes are taught by 7th degree black belt Sensei John Benedict with over 30 years teaching experience. So whether you want to get in the ring or protect yourself and your family, MMA Long Island can help you reach your goals. Visit MMALongIsland.com. That's MMALongIsland.com or call or text 516-381-9660. That's 516-381-9660.
Do current market conditions have you nervous? Our experienced team of financial professionals at Heritage Harbor Financial Associates understands that no two investors are alike. We all have different goals, needs, and appetites for risk. That's why the one-size-fits-all approach does not work, especially when planning for retirement. At Heritage Harbor Financial Associates, we analyze your unique investment style so that you can work toward your individual retirement goals on your terms. Heritage Harbor Financial Associates can help you take steps to reach your retirement goals by providing a wide array of financial products to fit your needs, even for the risk adverse. Give us a call at 631-331-6599 to learn more or to set up an appointment with one of our financial professionals. You can also find us on the web at hhfa.org or on Facebook at facebook.com/hhfa.org. Our number again is 631-331-6599. That's 631-331-6599. Investments in stock, bonds, and mutual funds and variable annuities are not FDIC insured and are subject to fluctuation in value and market risk, including loss of principal. Heritage Harbor Financial Associates offers securities through AXA Advisors, LLC, New York, New York. Member FINRA, SIPC, annuity and insurance products offered through AXA Network, LLC.
Edward Lehman has been a trusted insurance advisor for over 16 years with insurance solutions for auto, home, commercial, life, and retirement. He's located at 54 Sunnyside Boulevard, Suite H in Plainview. That's just 1,000 feet south of 495. Local agent, local advice. The time to think about insurance is before you need it. So do yourself a favor, and before you pay your next insurance bill, give Ed and his team a call, 516-935-3900, or visit him online at www.allstate.com/EL. Edward H. Lehman Insurance is your trusted insurance advisor.
Hi, this is Terry Crews, actor, former football player, game show host, father of 5, and all-around big dude. I'm also an expert on drama. I know all kinds of drama. There's the good kind that comes with having a house full of kids. There's the bad kind like season-ending injuries. There's the necessary kind like having an agent in Hollywood. And there's silly drama like the drama around my percolating pectorals. And then there's the drama you can skip.
Skip the drama that comes with not having your high school diploma or equivalency. Find free adult education classes near you and finish your high school diploma. Visit finishyourdiploma.org.
Or text diploma to 97779. Message and data rates may apply. Reply STOP to opt out. That's diploma to 97779. And leave the drama to actors like me.
Brought to you by the Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
Adopt US Kids presents Multiple Choice Parenting.
Your daughter just had her first breakup. Do you A, put yourself in her shoes?
How could he do this to you? And for Sheila, she has split ends.
B, console her.
Oh, sweetie, this is going to happen a lot. 4, maybe 5 more times before you get married.
C, take charge.
Got to get this all straightened out. Give a little talking to, man to man, mano a mano. Hey, Steve! It's now a good time? No? Okay, no problem. Bye.
Or D, help her find a new boyfriend.
I know a great place to meet boys. The internet. Nice, single boys. Never mind. How about some ice cream?
As a parent, there are no perfect answers. But you don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same.
For more information on how you can adopt, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
This is you over 30 years ago.
Are we there yet? Are we there yet?
And this is your mom when you drive her back from therapy.
Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet?
Roles change without us noticing. And in your new role, we help you help. AARP gives you the information to help care for your mom so that you can have patience with her, just like she did with you. Visit aarp.org/caregiving or call 1-877-333-5885 to get practical health and wellness tips to provide even better care for your loved one.
Are we there yet?
Remember, visit aarp.org/caregiving. AARP, we help you help. A public service announcement brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
When I was little, I didn't talk for a long time. I liked things to always be the same. Anything new or different would scare and upset me. I was very sensitive to lights and sounds. It was almost like I had bigger eyes and ears than everyone else. So I built secret hiding places where nothing could get in. I didn't like looking people in the eye. It made me feel uncomfortable. I'd throw big tantrums over little things like when my socks didn't match. Sometimes I'd do the same things over and over. Until one day, I found out I had autism. My family got me help. Slowly, I learned how to live with it better.
You can see signs of autism in children as young as 18 months. Early intervention can make a lifetime of difference. Learn the signs at autismspeaks.org/signs. Brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
It's Thursday night, and you're grabbing drinks with some friends. Started off with a pitcher for the table, which quickly becomes two. There's pool. And there's the photo booth.
All right, everybody squeeze in. Say cheese!
Followed naturally by an order of wings. And another.
Can we get some extra ranch sauce?
Then there's the ceremonial nightcap.
So what are we doing this weekend?
And lastly, it's back to the car, which, if you're buzzed, could be the most expensive night of your life. Getting pulled over for buzz driving could cost you around $10,000 in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
This is Mario Andretti. You know me as a race car driver, but I'm also a Meals on Wheels volunteer. I've raced against the sport's biggest personalities, but I've never met more vibrant, amazing people than the seniors served by Meals on Wheels. As a volunteer, you deliver a hot, nutritious meal and a friendly hello to someone just like your mother, grandfather, or next-door neighbor. These seniors are inspiring people with incredible stories to share, and they love to see you. The smiles you get back are priceless. Delivering with Meals on Wheels is easy, and you don't have to drive like me for it to be quick. You can volunteer your lunch break once a week or just once a month. With 1 in 6 seniors facing hunger and many more living in isolation, your lunch break can make a real difference. So, America, let's do lunch. Volunteer your lunch break at americaletsdolunch.org.
This message brought to you by Meals on Wheels America and the Ad Council.
Okay, Simon, what are you wearing right now?
Nothing.
That's right. And what do people normally wear?
Clothes.
Exactly. So now Mommy's going to teach you how to dress yourself. Clothes keep us warm, they look good, and if we go out without them, the neighbors will talk.
Hold doors open for ladies. If a door's shut, then knock first. Don't burp, don't swear, don't speak with your mouth full, don't reach across people's plates, keep your elbows off the table.
What table?
And don't interrupt. While we're at it, don't stare, don't use foul language, don't call people names, but do remember people's names. Always share your toys, play nice, and cover your mouth when you cough or sneeze. On the bus, give up your seat to anyone who has trouble standing. Bottom line, treat others the way you'd like to be treated. Got it?
Got it.
And stop picking your nose.
Most parenting is hard to do in just 2 minutes. But spending just 2 minutes twice a day making sure they brush their teeth is easier and could help save them from a lifetime of tooth pain. For fun 2-minute videos to watch while brushing, visit 2min2x.org. That's 2min2x.org. A message from the Partnership for Healthy Mouths, Healthy Lives, and the Ad Council.
Hey, there he is. How's it going?
I'm having a stroke.
Are you going to shake my hand or what?
I'm having a stroke.
Wow, you're not even moving your arm.
I'm having a stroke.
Are you okay?
I'm having a stroke.
Your face looks weird too.
I'm having a stroke.
Are you having a seizure or something?
I'm having a stroke.
When someone is having a stroke, they may not be able to say it with words, but their body language will tell you loud and clear.
I'm having a stroke.
You just need to know the sudden signs. Look for FAST, F-A-S-T. F, face drooping. A, arm weakness. Or S, speech difficulty. Then T, time. Time to call 911 immediately, because the sooner they get to the hospital, the sooner they'll get treatment. And that can make a remarkable difference in their recovery. Know the sudden signs. Face, arm, speech, time. Spot a stroke fast. Visit strokeassociation.org. Brought to you by the American Stroke Association and the Ad Council.
The average time a resume spends on an HR manager's desk is 7 seconds. And most of them are tossed aside. Now imagine if one of those resumes belonged to Yasmin, who was
living in a shelter, juggling 3 jobs. I had to be resilient. That's something that you can't teach.
or if that resume was from someone who
worked 12-hour shifts at the recycling company with my dad, who's 72. That taught me a work ethic that I carry with me every day.
we rely so much on a resume, yet it could never tell the full story of someone.
Growing up where I did, a lot of things could have gotten in the way of my goals, but I learned to push through, and that's what I bring to work every day.
So maybe it's time we look beyond the resume and look to Grads of Life. Discover new ways to develop great talent that are so much more than what's on paper at gradsoflife.org. A public service announcement brought to you by Grads of Life and the Ad Council.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
Great moments are born from great opportunity. And that's what you have here. That's what you've earned here tonight.
Forget about the crowds, the size of the school, their fancy uniforms, and remember what got you here. If you put your effort and concentration into playing to your potential, to be the best that you can be, I don't care what the scoreboard says at the end of the game, in my book, we're going to be winners.
On this team, we tear ourselves and everyone else around us to pieces for that inch. We claw with our fingernails for that inch because we know when we add up all those inches, that's going to make the f***ing difference between winning and losing.
It's down to the wire with Errol Marks and Speedy Petey.
Oh, Petey! Oh, Petey!
On the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
Hello, Long Island, New York, and around the country. This is Down to the Wire. I'm your host, Errol Marks. My co-host, Mr. Tidy Whitey Man himself, Mr. Speedy Petey. It looks like he's sitting in his bedroom. I don't know what the heck he's doing, but that's unfortunately he's not in the studios today because of a scare. Hopefully it's not serious with the COVID-19 situation, and I don't want to have his wrinkly ass sitting right next to me if he has COVID. So he is right now in his place, and I'm in the studios of the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. Remember, you can call us at 631-500-0548. You could also go to our website at www.worldwidesportsradio.com. You can download our app, and I hope you're downloading our app. And if you're not, well, I don't know what the hell's wrong with you guys. We better check out our app. You go to iOS, which is WWSRN, or Android, Worldwide Sports Radio Network. Speedy Petey, how was your Super Bowl weekend?
Very interesting, actually.
Oh,
so
gosh, here we go.
I was with my family, stuffed myself a lot of food, but you know what was actually very interesting? The NFL Network analytics expert and former special guest of ours, and Cynthia Freeland, actually tweeted something, and I responded to it. And apparently, my tweet made it to the NFL Network show that was on. So that was pretty fascinating. So now we definitely have to get Cynthia back on so I can bring that up.
How wonderful. Good old Cynthia, who picked the Buffalo Bills to go all the way this year. So unfortunately, she was wrong on that one. But she was right about the Buffalo Bills, how good they were this year.
Yes.
Sensational until they made it to the playoffs. And Josh Allen threw a lousy goose egg. You know, obviously we remember what happened against Kansas City. But that's what we're going to get into first. And why not get into the Super Bowl, which I thought this was going to be a very fun Super Bowl. It was going to be a very close Super Bowl. Boy, oh boy, was I wrong. It was so outlandish, to say the least. First of all, I will get into the referee calls in the first half. They were absolutely horrendous. Now, that's not the reason why Tampa won the Super Bowl. I'm not going to blame the referees because as well as what we saw in the first half, in the second half, there wasn't as many calls in the second half as far as penalties. So the game was practically let go, and Kansas City had a chance to come back in the game. They just couldn't make the plays, and Tampa's defense was sensational. I told you guys before the game, if Tampa Bay wins the game, the two guys that are going to stand out offensively is Fournette, who ran over 100 yards, and Gronkowski, who had 2 touchdowns, which I predicted he was going to have in the game. So, and I believe that if these two guys were going to be big factors in the game, Tampa is going to have a chance to win the game. And that, boy, oh boy, did they have a huge factor in the game, including Antonio Brown, that had a very big factor in the catches that he made in the game, the big catches that he made in the game. But Tom Brady, and I said this before the game, I said that if Tom Brady won this Super Bowl or even came close to winning this Super Bowl, that I would put him in my top 2. Tom Brady right now, you can argue, is one of the greatest, if not the greatest, quarterback to ever play the game. I'm gonna say that, and I'm gonna correct myself. Now, a lot of people are complaining about the penalty calls in the first half, and I do believe that some of the penalty calls did not fit the call. I will say that. Kansas City got screwed in at least 3 calls in the first half, which cost them points and probably would have cost them to maybe stay in the game a little bit closer early in the game. But the defense was so good. Tampa's defense was so good because of the offensive line woes at Kansas City. The two tackles that they were missing, the big ones, Fisher tearing his Achilles, and the right tackle hurting himself before the playoffs. You saw what the offensive line could do, no matter how good your quarterback is. If you don't have a good offensive line, you don't have good tackles, and you're playing against a team that can get to the quarterback, you're going to have a long, long day. And Patrick Mahomes had a very, very long day. But there was a lot of things that stuck out to me with Patrick Mahomes. One thing is he loves to win. There's no question. This kid wants to win every single game he steps on the field. And you can see it in his play. Even the throw that he was practically in the air and he threw it 30 yards and it hit one of his wide receivers in the helmet. That was unbelievable. Patrick Mahomes made throws that I've never seen a quarterback ever make or throw. It was sensational. And you saw what Patrick Mahomes is going to be. He's still very, very young. He's 24, 25 years old. He's not even in the prime of his career yet. So he's got so much football left, and he's already been in 2 Super Bowls, and he's won an MVP. So he's had a sensational career really, really early on in his career, just like Tom Brady did. And if there's anybody that's going to come close to maybe surpassing Tom Brady's 7 championships, it would probably be Patrick Mahomes. But Tom Brady made the throws that he needed to make, especially in the game where it counted the most, especially at the end of the second quarter, and where he was making the throws. He was very accurate in his throws. The screen passes, we all know Kansas City is a blitz-happy team, a.k.a. Spagnuolo. And I'll tell you this right now, Spagnuolo should be fired from his defensive play calling in that game. It was horrendous. It was so bad. And I understand under the heat of the moment, you're going to see players get upset and tired and sick of what Tom Brady is doing, a.k.a. the Honey Badger, and he said what he said in the third quarter. And I don't know what he said, and I heard Tom Brady reached out to him at the end of the game and apologized for whatever he said back at him. And supposedly the Honey Badger said he said some derogatory things. I don't even care. But the game stuck out like a sore thumb. It really, really did. And I know a lot of people are going to look at the big picture here. Tom Brady has 7 championships, 7 out of 10 titles that he's been to. And that's sensational. Anybody that doesn't think that Tom Brady winning 7 championships, he has won more championships than any team in NFL history has. So to say that Tom Brady isn't one of the greatest, if not the greatest, I can't even argue that anymore. I really can't. I will put him in my top 2. You can argue now that it's either Joe Montana or Tom Brady. And that's coming from a Jet fan and a person that doesn't like Tom Brady very, very much. But I can't even come out and say that Tom Brady isn't one of the greatest, if not the greatest, because of what he does in the big game. He makes the throws that he needs to make. And I know he didn't have such an outlandish performance. When you look at his numbers, 201 yards, two or three touchdowns thrown. He didn't throw any interceptions. He was very accurate. I think his quarterback rating or his passing rating was at 130 or something like that. It's ridiculous. Whatever it was ridiculous. And he outplayed the young Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes did not have a good game, maybe because of his offensive line. He was forcing the ball into places that he couldn't get it to Hill because they were double and triple teaming him in the open field. Travis Kelce finally made some catches in the third quarter and the fourth, but a little too late in the game. The game was over really in the second quarter. I said it. I posted up on Facebook. If anybody follows me on Facebook, you would see that I posted it up. The game was over before the third quarter and the fourth quarter because I couldn't see any way possible that Kansas City was going to come back the way the defensive line of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers was playing. Barrett was all over the place. JPP, even though he didn't have the sacks that he showed against the Aaron Rodgers, Green Bay Packers offensive line, he played sensational. That defense was all over the place. They were unbelievable. Devin White was all over the place. It was amazing. And by the way, all the Jet fans that love to take shots at Todd Bowles, that he's a terrible defensive mind and that he's not a good coach. Maybe he isn't a good coach, and he is going to get a second chance at being a head coach in the NFL. What he did to Patrick Mahomes in that offense, one of the greatest high-flying offenses we've seen in of all time, really, if you look at the numbers. He completely shut down that offense. You're talking about Hill, Kelce, Mahomes, the running game. They couldn't run the ball. They didn't even try to run the ball after they fell behind the way they did. It was absolutely incredible. Todd Bowles, to me, the MVP of that game was Todd Bowles. Todd Bowles, the play calling, the defensive style of game, he played man-to-man in certain aspects of the game, and then he played zone. He made sure that the top players could not catch the ball. He made sure that his two safeties were playing back the whole game. You never saw a safety come up and try to blitz the quarterback or try to get to the quarterback. It was such a great plan as far as the defensive scheme was concerned with Todd Bowles. But another thing that stood out to me in the game was Leonard Fournette. And I know a lot of people look at Leonard Fournette, the guy can't stay healthy. There was a reason why Jacksonville drafted him at number 4. This is a guy that's still in the prime of his career. The fact that Jacksonville gave up on him, it made absolutely no sense. And you see when the guy is healthy, what he can do. He dominated. The defensive line of the Kansas City Chiefs couldn't stop a hole in the wall. And there's no way in hell they could stop Leonard Fournette. Leonard Fournette was all over the place in the game. And he had over 100, I think it was 120 yards. He was fantastic. He really was. Jones really didn't stand out like a sore thumb like Leonard Fournette did, but you saw it. Antonio Brown, Leonard Fournette, and Gronkowski, Speedy, really stood out to me in that game.
Yeah, the matchups, I think, in particular, I thought Jones and Fournette definitely were going to be involved. And Gronk, you were absolutely dead right about when you said if they're going to win, then he's going to have 2 touchdowns. And you saw a little bit of break in the beginning, but then once Gronk took over, it was Gronk's time. And going back to what you were saying with Bowles, it was an excellent game plan. They played mostly 2 deep safeties the whole time, whether it was cover 1 or cover 2 type. They played mostly that the whole time, and they didn't blitz as often as they usually do. They just sent the 4-man rush, trusted that their guys would get there, and they did that. That allowed White to cover, that allowed Levante David to cover, and that was a big difference in the game plan with that. And then offensively for Tampa, Tom Brady did a great job spreading the ball around when their top options were kind of taken away. Evans had 1 catch. That was it, the big catch in the first quarter, and Godwin did nothing. So he did great amidst all that, too. So great job on Brady's part. It was just a really great all-around coaching effort. And
Speedy, the penalties were because of Evans. Evans was causing all those penalties. If you watch the game, especially in the first half, most of the penalties were on the corners that were defending Evans. He was causing so many problems in the backfield because of his speed and his ability to jump and his size. It opened up the field for Antonio Brown. I told you that. Evans was going to be taken out, and you're going to see Antonio Brown is going to show up in the game, and he did. And Gronkowski, I knew Gronk was going to get the ball more than 6 or 7 times, and he did. I think he touched the ball 8 or 9 times in the game. Tom Brady's blanket. It's been Tom Brady's blanket. No wonder why the Tampa Bay Buccaneers made that moves with the Patriots in the summertime to get Gronkowski, because Gronk is the blanket of Tom Brady. And I can't even argue that we might not see Tampa Bay in the Super Bowl next year because of this team. Now, I do think that there's a lot of players that probably might not be a Tampa Bay Buccaneer next year. One of those could be Barrett, who is going to be a free agent this year. He's going to be expecting a lot of money. Yes, they can franchise him, but there are other players that are going to be available this offseason that they're going to probably have to franchise and take a chance with. So this is not going to be the same Tampa Bay Buccaneers team, but they're going to be free agency opening up. They could add some different pieces. Maybe Leonard Fournette won't be there next year because he's going to be a free agent. He only signed a 1-year contract. So there's a lot of players that might not be a part of the Buccaneers next year. But what Tom Brady did was sensational. I'm not going to beat around the bush. Now, everybody keeps saying, I saw Anthony Carragher saying that. Well, let's see what you're going to argue about, that he's not the GOAT. I'm going to say this. I do not believe Tom Brady still is the GOAT. I don't. Now, but I can argue this now. That I can argue that him and Joe Montana, you can argue who the greatest quarterback of all time is. Joe Montana, who's 4-0 in the Super Bowl, and Tom Brady, that's won 7 out of 10. So I can argue now, and I will argue, that Tom Brady is one of the greatest, if not the greatest quarterback of all time. I'm not going to say he's the GOAT because I still don't think. And by the way, Tyler Harrison, okay, who posted up that Tom Brady is the GOAT in all sports. I don't know what you're drinking, bro. I don't know where you're from. Maybe you're hanging out with Kyrie Irving over there on the moon with the flat earth. I don't know what the hell you're thinking, because the greatest athlete of all time is Michael Jordan. It's not even an argument. And for you to even put Tom Brady in the same boat as Michael Jordan, you have no idea what you're talking about. You have never seen Michael Jordan play because you're too young to see Michael Jordan play. How old are you, Tyler? 26 years old? Michael Jordan played like 20 years ago. 20 years ago, you were 6 when Michael Jordan wasn't even at the prime of his career. So how would you know who the greatest athlete was of all time? It's ridiculous. I understand that a lot of people love Tom Brady and love what Tom Brady has done in his career. It's been sensational. You can't take away what Tom Brady has done. Even me, who can't stand the man, can't take away what Tom Brady has done. And yesterday shows you why Tom Brady is one of the greatest of all time. Because even in the big game, it doesn't matter what his numbers are, he stands out over all the players. Was he the MVP of the team? No, he wasn't. Let's be honest. You could have given it to Leonard Fournette. You could have given it to Gronkowski. And they gave it to, obviously, the quarterback, who had 201 yards, 3 touchdowns, and no interceptions. Now, again, going at the game, Andy Reid's play calling was horrendous, by the way. Absolutely horrendous. And now Eric Bieniemy, who's a free agent this year, after this season, now the season being over, I could really see Kansas City moving on from Eric Bieniemy, obviously because Doug Peterson is available. And Doug Peterson, who was another disciple of Andy Reid, I think he's a better, more known offensive mind. Now, I'm not saying that Eric Bieniemy won't get the contract, but it's going to be very interesting this offseason now that Doug Peterson doesn't have a job, that maybe Andy Reid, Doug Peterson's one of Andy Reid's closest friends, that maybe Andy Reid decides to move on from a guy like Eric Bieniemy. I don't know, but it's going to be a very interesting offseason, Speedy, for Kansas City.
I can't see them moving on from Bieniemy just for one game, though. You're right. The play calling was not good. There was really no adjustments really whatsoever once the Buccaneers offensive line really attacked it. It's surprising because the Chiefs have done well at times with quicker passes in this postseason. They did it against Cleveland very effectively, and they did it at times against Buffalo in the second half. So it's surprising that they were never able to adjust to that. I think Peterson, if there's a chance he goes anywhere else, it could be somewhere like Indianapolis with Reich. I don't know if Kansas City is going to move on from Bieniemy that quickly. That seems a little impulsive just on one game. And Anthony, you're saying Michael Phelps is the greatest athlete of all time. You're on drugs. Now, he's the greatest swimmer of all time, and swimming is great. It's a great sport. You don't have to be a world-renowned athlete to be a swimmer, okay?
basketball, you need to jump. You need to, there's so many different things. You need to run up and down the court. You have to have a tremendous amount of ability. Now, I'm not saying swimming isn't a sport where you have to be a top end athlete. I'm not saying that. But Speedy, what are you using more of your body parts as far as I'm concerned? First of all, Olympic sports is once every 4 years. Michael Jordan played every other day. He played basketball almost his whole career for almost 20 years. Michael Phelps, yes, he swam for over, I would say 16, 17 years, but he swam every 4 years. So it doesn't, I understand that everybody says, well, Michael Phelps is a great athlete. How about Serena Williams? She's a great athlete. I think she's won 17 championships. How about Rafael Nadal or Roger Federer? You can argue those points too, but that's tennis. I'm talking about world-renowned sports. When you try to compare basketball, football, baseball, I guess you could put hockey. Those are the 4 most popular sports here in America. And then you got soccer, a.k.a. football over there overseas. Where's swimming? Swimming is like on the bottom of the food chain. You cannot put Michael Phelps and compare him to Tom Brady. You can't compare him to Michael Jordan or Muhammad Ali or Roy Jones or whoever you want to put in the boxing situation or MMA, the John Joneses. It's a different sport. And to say that Michael Phelps is the greatest athlete of all time, because he's not. He's not. Usain Bolt. He's not one of the greatest athletes of all time. Go watch what he has done as a runner. Seriously. And you're going to say, hold on one second. You're going to say that people are going to say that Tom Brady is the greatest athlete of all time. He's not. He's not. Now, is he one of the greatest winners of all time? There's no question that he is. He's won 7 titles. Maybe the greatest winner of all time when it comes to winning championships because he's won one more than Michael Jordan. But Bill Russell's won 11 titles, 12 titles. So you can't even argue that. Phil Jackson won 12 titles as a coach and as a player. Or 13 titles or whatever it is. So, again, your arguments are you want to argue the point that Tom Brady is the GOAT in football? He's not. Jerry Rice is the GOAT in football. Jerry Rice's records will never be broken. Never. We were trying to compare. Who was I talking to? I think it was Josh or somebody else. I was talking to somebody over the weekend comparing Eric Martini, comparing as far as touchdowns are concerned, yards per catch, yards compared to Terrell Owens and Randy Moss. I mean, even the second most yards caught in NFL history is Larry Fitzgerald, who has 17,000 yards, to a guy like Jerry Rice has 23,000. Okay? He's never going to come close to Jerry Rice's numbers. Jerry Rice has over 208 touchdowns. The closest guy to that, I think, has 130, 140. Nobody's going to come close to that. Jerry Rice is the greatest football player of all time. And anybody that argues that doesn't know what they're talking about. Now, is Tom Brady the greatest quarterback of all time? It's arguable. You can argue that. You can argue that now. I can argue that now. I would say him or Joe Montana. You can argue that. And it coming from me, again, saying that is saying a lot. I'm going to tell you this. I give Tom Brady, I call him Tom Grady, Tom Brady a lot of credit yesterday. I do. Tom Brady has a lot to be thankful for. 7 championships. If he never wins a championship again or goes to another Super Bowl, 7 out of 10, that's fantastic. That's amazing. And I'm not going to take that away from him. I won't say Tom Brady can't win without Bill Belichick because that's a lie. He won one yesterday without Bill Belichick, and Bill Belichick has not won without him. And until that happens, Tom Brady has something to argue about. Could Bill Belichick have won all those championships without Tom Brady? Now you can argue no. Because it shows you right now, Tom Brady went to his first year with Tampa Bay. He goes all the way to the Super Bowl and wins the Super Bowl.
As a 5 seed.
What was that, Speedy?
I said as a 5 seed, no less, playing a lot of the games on the road in New Orleans and Green Bay. That is a very tough path. And remember what we say all the time, like he was helped out by the weak division and the weak AFC. Now he did it in the NFC, which is tough, and he did it all the way there, and then not only beat but destroyed the Kansas City Chiefs.
Mm-hmm. It's crazy, man. It is crazy, and you can't take it away from what he has done. The success of Tom Brady, I won't take it away from him anymore because it's a fantastic story. He deserves all the credit in the world. And and like I said, coming from me and me saying that is saying a lot because I am not a Tom Brady lover. I don't like Tom Brady as a person. I don't know him personally. I never met him. And he looks like a nice guy in all the commercials and all the different interviews he's had over the week. And maybe he's changed as a player, maybe because of winning does that to you, or going somewhere else and being more mature or older. He's changed as a player. But I can't take away that Tom Brady isn't one of the greatest, if not the greatest quarterback to ever play the game. But to say that he's the greatest athlete, to say he's the greatest football player to ever play in the NFL, that's a lie, an absolute lie. When we come back, ladies and gentlemen, we will be talking to the host of Cruise Control Podcast, Cruz Oxenreider, here on Down to the Wire.
Edward Lehman has been a trusted insurance advisor for over 16 years with insurance solutions for auto, home, commercial, life, and retirement. He's located at 54 Sunnyside Boulevard, Suite H in Plainview. That's just 1,000 feet south of 495. Local agent, local advice. The time to think about insurance is before you need it. So do yourself a favor and before you pay your next insurance bill, give Ed and his team a call, 516-935-3900, or visit him online at www.allstate.com/EL. Edward H. Lehman Insurance is your trusted insurance advisor.
Hi, this is Terry Crews, actor, former football player, game show host, father of 5, and all-around big dude. I'm also an expert on drama. I know all kinds of drama. There's the good kind that comes with having a house full of kids. There's the bad kind like season-ending injuries. There's the necessary kind like having an agent in Hollywood. And there's silly drama like the drama around my percolating pectorals. And then there's the drama you can skip.
Skip the drama that comes with not having your high school diploma or equivalency. Find free adult education classes near you and finish your high school diploma. Visit finishyourdiploma.org.
Or text diploma to 97779. Message and data rates may apply. Reply stop to opt out. That's diploma to 97779. And leave the drama to actors like me.
Brought to you by the Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ed Council.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. You're listening to Down to the Wire on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
As you guys know, this is Down to the Wire. I'm your host, Errol Marks, my co-host, Mr. Speedy Petey. Remember, you can call us at 631-500-5048, or you can go to our website at www.worldwidesportsradio.com. And ladies and gentlemen, download our app by going to iOS, which is Apple, WWSRN, and Android, Worldwide Sports Radio Network. Well. Crazy Super Bowl Sunday. I will say that. And I won't argue the points, again, that Tom Brady, you can't argue, is one of the greatest winners in professional sports. But we're gonna do a lot of conversation, a lot of arguing with this special guest. We are now talking to the host of Cruise Control Podcast, Cruz Oxenreider. Am I right about that? Oxenreider. Where did you get your last name? Is that your last name?
Yeah, it is my last name. I am straight up German. So yeah, thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate being on.
Absolutely. By the way, how are you doing with this pandemic?
I'm doing pretty decent. I am in Florida, so rules don't really apply to where I live. It seems like I still wear a mask everywhere I go, do the best I can, but haven't had it yet. Knock on wood, but I'm doing pretty good.
I love how you said Florida. Florida. It's not a New York way of saying it. We call it Florida, but it's pretty funny, actually. As you guys know, we are talking to the host of Cruise Control Podcast, Cruz Oxenreider. So why don't we get into your thoughts? What really stood out to you last night in the Super Bowl? And your thoughts to Tom Brady. Is Tom Brady the greatest quarterback to ever play the game?
So starting off, like, what stood out to me, honestly, it was Tampa Bay's front four. I thought they were fantastic. I mean, they mainly played cover 2 the entire night. They kept everything in front of them. They weren't going to let Tyreek Hill and Sammy Watkins and Mecole Hardman beat them deep. They will take those little dump routes to Kelsey. That's why Kelsey's numbers looked great, because that's all Tampa Bay's defense was giving them. They're keeping everything in front. I mean, that front four for Tampa Bay was out of this world. I mean, Sue was in the backfield all night. Shaquille Barrett was in the backfield all night. Honestly, Devin White was my MVP. I mean, he was all over the football field. 12 tackles. I mean, 2 for loss. Had an INT in the end zone to help keep them not letting them get a touchdown towards the end. I thought it was fantastic defense. I mean, yes, Tom Brady played good football. He played very safe. I mean, yeah, he took a couple deep shots towards the end near the half. Got the huge PI, which I don't know. It didn't really look like PI to me. It looked like he was tripping and his hand just caught Mike Evans' foot, but I digress. I thought that Tampa Bay's defense just won the game. I thought it was kind of equivalent to the Seahawks-Broncos Super Bowl a couple years ago, where anything that Peyton Manning tried to do with that offense wasn't going to work against the Legion of Boom. Tom Brady is the most accomplished quarterback of all time. I don't think he's the greatest quarterback or most athletic, but I feel like I can't argue he's got 7 rings. He's the most accomplished quarterback of all time. And I agree. I don't think he's the greatest player of all time. I would have to say, when you were talking earlier, Jerry Rice, yeah, he's got numbers that'll never be broken. If you're talking athletes, Deion Sanders, I don't know how you leave him off.
Yep.
Obviously, I'm not old enough to watch Jim Brown play, but everything I've heard from Jim Brown is he was the greatest player of all time. So, but I mean, yeah, you can't argue with the fact that Tom Brady has 7 rings and he's been to 10 Super Bowls, and he is. I gotta say he's the GOAT of quarterbacks. I would say I never got to see Joe Montana play in his prime, so it's hard to argue with that. I just think at the end of the day, Tampa Bay's defense, you could have played that game in Kansas City. You could have played on a neutral site. You could have played on the moon. It did not matter. Tampa Bay's defense was not going to lose that game.
A big deal was the fact that both tackles were out for Kansas City. We thought Mitchell Schwartz might have had a shot to come back. It looked like it was headed that way. Then last second, they said he was out as well, still having issues on the COVID-19 list. And Fisher, as we know, tore his Achilles. So being the margin of victory and the way Tampa's defense played the way they did, how much do you think it would have made a difference if either one or both of them was still playing? Would it have been a Kansas City win? Would it have been still a close game? Or do you think Tampa still wins anyway?
I mean, from what I saw last night, I think it's kind of hard to argue that Tampa Bay wouldn't have won that game either way. I mean, so if you watch that game and everyone's giving Patrick Mahomes a lot of flack today, it's like, oh, he was awful, he was horrible. No, he was running for his life the entire game. Before he even took two seconds off the ball, there was Shaquille Barrett or Ndamukong Suh in his face, or JPP was there. They had 29 pressures out of 56 dropbacks. So over 50% of the time Patrick Mahomes dropped back to pass, he was under pressure. So, and the fact they only got 3 sacks out of that was phenomenal. I know they had 5 tackles for loss, but only 3 sacks out of 29 pressures. It's unheard of. It was the most in Super Bowl history. And it just seemed like no matter, even if the tackles, yes, that probably would have been limited down. But just the way that Tampa Bay's offense was clicking, they weren't making mistakes. Their offensive line played great yesterday. I believe they only had 4 pressures and they gave up 1 sack. But Tampa Bay could really do whatever they want offensively. They played really safe. I know Kansas City blitzed a lot, and Tom Brady was checking it down. Fournette was a very good weapon to have. I mean, with those check down routes, I mean, Leonard Fournette had 46 yards receiving as well to go on with the almost 90 yards rushing. And of course, that touchdown that kind of sealed the game in the third quarter. You come out of halftime and you see Kansas City march down the field and only being able to get another field goal out of it. I'm like, all right, well, maybe there's still a chance. And watching Tampa Bay just go down the field again and just Leonard Fournette just going, he was a very very low key free agent signing. I know when we got released from the Jags, and he kind of got there in the end of the season, and he really started to come on late in the playoffs. They called him Playoff Lenny for a reason.
Mhm.
So he came on strong. Looked like retro LSU Leonard Fournette when he wasn't playing Alabama. He looked good. I think that Tampa Bay was going to win this game. I know they didn't have to worry about the media week, traveling. They didn't have to worry about being away from the family. They didn't have to worry about missing practices, getting out of their normal routine. It just looked like Tampa Bay was well over prepared for this game. And it looks like Kansas City just thought they could sleepwalk into this game and just kind of do what they did last time.
That's what I thought. You saw it in Patrick Mahomes' face. By the way, we are talking to the host of Cruise Control Podcast, Cruz Oxenreider. Now, I agree with you. I don't know what was going on. Early in the game, you saw that Patrick Mahomes seemed like he was so confident, a little too cocky when he stepped on the field. You could see it in his face. And then as the game progressed and you saw him on the sidelines, you saw him his head in his hands, head between his legs. You saw the area of defeat in the third quarter. I knew that the game was over really going, before the third quarter even started with the halftime show. And by the way, the weekend was fantastic. I don't care what anybody says about the weekend. That was a fantastic 15-minute concert that he put on. It was fantastic. He was on the roof. He was on the field. He was on a stage. He was fantastic. I don't care what anybody says. I saw so many people take shots at the weekend. It was absolutely uncalled for. The guy did everything possible. And by the way, he didn't have any guest like Shakira and Jennifer Lopez. It was just the weekend. And he put on a Michael Jackson-esque kind of concert. It was fantastic. But what I noticed in the game, and I said this to Speedy, I said this on our FM show, The Weekend Crunch, I said it, that if Tampa was going to win the game, Leonard Fournette is going to get over 100 yards, and I said that Gronkowski is going to score at least 2 touchdowns. And what happened, Speedy? I told you this, and I like to blow myself up because there's certain things that I say, and it comes true, and I like to stick it to people. But to me, Gronkowski was the player of the game. He made blocks. He was being used as another offensive tackle. When Jones was trying to blitz and he was trying to get to Tom Brady, you saw that Gronk was on the left side. He was on the right side. He was blocking. He was catching the ball. I think he had 7 or 8 catches for over 70-something yards, 2 touchdowns. Gronk did everything in the game. And by the way, Gronk didn't have a great season. Gronk, it took him a while to get his legs under him. He really did. All throughout the season, he wasn't the same player. It took a while for him to figure it out. And then as the players progressed, he was just a better player. And I was amazed. I was absolutely amazed on how Gronkowski, especially in the fourth quarter, when they started throwing the ball to Antonio Brown as the game progressed. And Evans completely disappeared. You didn't see the dynamic offense we've seen all season long with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He threw to really 3 guys, and he ran the ball with Leonard Fournette. So my question to you, my friend, when you look at Andy Reid and his play calling, and I know everybody says it's Eric Bieniemy making the play calls. Come on, give me a break. It's Andy Reid, one of the greatest offensive minds in NFL history. He's definitely making the play calls with Eric Bieniemy. Were you surprised that Andy Reid couldn't figure out this defense?
I kind of was, but at the end of the day, it's not like Andy Reid. This is a very uncharacteristic game for Andy Reid. I think you're right. I put him up there with the Sean Paytons and the Sean McVays, the great offensive minds in the NFL right now. And my problem with it is they didn't adjust defensively. I mean, it was clear in the first quarter they're not throwing the ball deep. They are keeping it. They're doing the checkdowns, keeping it short, putting Gronk out into the flat. I mean, if you go there and you watch that first touchdown, play action Gronk in the flat, that's a play that they ran to New England countless times. Gronk was great. I thought Gronk was great. I thought Tyrann Mathieu on Gronkowski in the red zone was a total mismatch.
Mm-hmm.
If you go back to the second touchdown he had, Tyrann Mathieu had no shot. I mean, granted, that pass interference that led to it was laughably bad. Or towards the end of halftime was laughably bad. And I think everyone's going to kind of go in and blame the refs. And I kind of did at halftime yesterday. I mean, 11 penalties for 120 yards. You're not going to win that game. But again, I think Andy Reid's going to get a lot of flack. And Eric Bieniemy is he's going to be a great head coach someday. I really think he is.
I don't think
so.
He hasn't interviewed very well. He interviewed for 17 jobs. I counted 17 jobs in 3 years, and he still doesn't have a job. That to me is a little scary when you're talking about a guy that's very, highly profiled under Andy Reid. We've seen all Andy Reid's disciple offensive coordinators get jobs. The next year, Eric Bieniemy's been the offensive coordinator for almost 3 years now, and he hasn't landed a job. To me, that's something that you have to look at. In the big picture, he doesn't interview very well.
Well, think about this. Andy Reid doesn't have a lot of time left. Patrick Mahomes isn't going anywhere anytime soon. Travis Kelce isn't going anywhere soon. No one's really talking about maybe Eric Bieniemy is the next Kansas City head coach. Why would he want to leave that situation? He's not going to get a quarterback better than Patrick Mahomes. He's already established there. He knows the players. He knows the coaching staff. I mean, what job right now would be better than Kansas City?
Andy Reid is a lifer. He is a lifer.
There was rumors of Andy Reid possibly stepping down after winning the Super Bowl last year. I don't think Andy Reid has that long left. And I kind of look at it as like Josh McDaniels in New England. I think he's going to be the New England head coach when Bill Belichick calls it quits, whenever that is.
The team is going to be terrible for the next 10 to 15 years when he takes over that team. Give me a break.
Very well. Yeah. I mean, but I think Eric Bieniemy is fine waiting his turn to coach Patrick Mahomes in that offense. Because like I said, I don't think there's going to be a situation better than Kansas City in the near future because there's not a quarterback in the NFL has a higher ceiling than Patrick Mahomes. So I think it's kind of a little bit of, he's taking these interviews just to see if someone's going to throw a ridiculous number at him to, and see how much power they can give him. I wouldn't go to Houston. I wouldn't go to
Cruz. They haven't even offered him a job. Nobody's even offered him a job. That's crazy. You're talking about a guy. I used to do a show with ex-NFL player Eric Coleman. He spoke so highly of Eric Bieniemy, because he knows Eric. He's very close with Eric Bieniemy. And to me, it's crazy to look at the big picture. Even interview with the New York Jets, the Jets didn't even call him up for a second interview. They called Robert Saleh up and what's his name again? Who the Tennessee Titans offensive coordinator, who's now the
Atlanta Falcons coach.
Yeah, the Atlanta Falcons coach. So to me, that's alarming again when you're looking at the big picture because you're talking about one of the best offensive-minded coaches right now as an offensive coordinator in the NFL, and nobody has offered him a contract. Nobody's offered him even a second interview.
And it's true. And you bring up good points with the second interviews and that. And like I said, we don't know what's going on behind the rooms. We don't know if he's just taking these as a formality. We don't know what he's doing. Maybe he is a bad interviewer. Maybe we don't know. Like I said, I just kind of have a feeling it's like, look, I really don't think Andy Reid's going to be coaching much longer. I give it maybe a couple more seasons, but if I'm Eric Bieniemy, I'm not going to leave the opportunity to have Patrick Mahomes as my quarterback for the future because then it's like, okay, I don't have to worry about drafting one. I don't have to worry about getting one in free agent. Patrick Mahomes is in Kansas City for the next decade, and he's got that locked down. So, I mean, that would be my only thing.
Your podcast, you do a lot of Alabama sports, and they have a national championship football team and also a very successful basketball team right now that's been in the top 10 for different points this season. So we'll start with the football end of it. What are your take from this national championship type season? Also, from a draft perspective, where can you see a lot of these first round projected players turning out in the NFL, especially some of the big name offensive players?
Yeah, so I do talk a lot about Alabama sports. I attended the University of Alabama as my alma mater. I'm from there. I'm from Mobile, Alabama as well. It was a great season. I thought it was coming from a season if we didn't even know we were going to have it to possibly being statistically the greatest offense in college football history to debatable a top 5 all-time team college football history. And yeah, everyone's going to be like, oh, it was a COVID year and everything like that. We blew all expectations out of the water. Our offense couldn't be stopped. Yes, this wasn't a typical Alabama defense like we're used to seeing where it's suffocating run defense and just shut down, only giving up 10 points. That's unrealistic in today's age of college football. I thought this was a great team. Not a lot of people had faith in Mac Jones going into the season. If you guys listen to my podcast or if you guys know who I am, you know I'm probably the biggest Mac Jones supporter out there besides his family. So I love the fact that he came in, kept his head down, didn't listen to the Bryce Young hype, which he's going to be a stud at Alabama in the future. I think his future is very bright. Devontae Smith coming back for his senior year, Najee Harris coming back for his senior year, and the one that I don't think gets enough love, Alex Leatherwood coming back for his senior year. It just was the perfect storm, especially playing an all SEC schedule. We didn't play the Louisiana Techs, we didn't play the Southern Miss. We played everybody in the SEC, first team ever to do that. And then we go in, we play a national power, Notre Dame, take care of business. And in fact, I give probably Notre Dame props because their defense played us the best out of anybody we played all year. And then we go and take care of business against Ohio State, who very talented team. I didn't think they deserved to be in the playoffs. Yes, I know what they did to Clemson, but if you play 6 games when everyone else is playing 10 and 11 games, that's not really fair. That's just giving someone else an advantage in my eyes, but they still took care of business. And I think this Alabama team was special. I think it is Nick Saban's best team ever. And that's saying a lot.
As you guys know, we are talking to Cruise Control Podcast, Mr. Leader of the band, a Cruz Oxenreider, an Oxenreider. I'm sorry. I called you Oxenreider. But anyway.
Trust me, many variations of my name.
That is a crazy name, by the way. It is a crazy. That's a mouthful right there. It is.
Some people think it's fake. I was like, it's on my birth certificate. It's true. I'm 28 years old, and when I still get carded to go to the bars, people look at me as like, that's not a real name. So.
Well, let me ask you this question because you talk a lot of Alabama sports. Now, you talk about Smith, and a lot of people say that he could be a top 3 draft nominee this year, obviously being that he's the best wide receiver in this year's draft. Some people will argue that. Mr. LSU over there, who didn't have a season, a lot of people believe that Chase is going to argue that point because Lamar Chase didn't have the opportunity to Jamar Chase didn't really have the opportunity to show his game this year, but that was his decision. Yeah. Are you surprised that a lot of people think that he might not even be in the top 10?
No, and you're referring to Jamar Chase not being in the top 10,
Smith.
Right?
Smith. People are saying that Smith might not be a top 10 pick. Some people are saying that he might fall out of the top 10.
If they do, they will live to regret that. I really do. Look, Devontae Smith has been around top draft picks all year. Jerry Jeudy, Henry Ruggs over the years. When he was a freshman, he had Calvin Ridley as well. Devontae Smith is the best wide receiver in SEC history. And that's not just an opinion, that's a fact. Go look at the stats. I mean, he's the best. Yes, Jamar Chase is a freak of nature, and I think he's going to be special. I really do. I think he's going to be really good. But Devontae Smith he's earned his worth. I think he can come in, and I think if he went to I think Miami is a perfect fit for him. I really do. You give Tua a weapon that he's already familiar with, who he already has chemistry with. He can come in and be wide receiver 1 day 1. He's actually a very underrated run blocker. Yes, you look at him and you don't think, oh, he doesn't look like a physical wide receiver. Well, he plays a lot stronger than he looks. Ryan Day said the same thing after the Ohio State game. I think Devontae Smith I think he should go top 5. And that's just not me being biased. I just think if you look at the season that he had, it's kind of hard to argue with that. Yes, I think Jamar Chase, I think would fit better in Philadelphia. I think if you're going to take a wide receiver at 3 with Miami, I think Devontae Smith is the answer. I think Jalen Waddle is the one that's probably going to slide out because I know right now he's projected that he's anywhere between the top 10. I think he's probably going to fall in the teens just due to how big of a setback he had with his injury. I know I personally don't think he should have played in the national championship. I'm glad he did because he actually made somewhat of an impact, but I think he's going to be the guy who's going to, wide receiver wise, is going to slip.
Moving on to the basketball team now. They've been very impressive as well. Tops in the SEC in terms of conference record, just their first loss to Missouri on Saturday, but very well all year. So what have been some of your impressions of them between the top players like Petty and Shackelford and also with Nate Oates coaching the way he did? He's done a great job since hiring him from Buffalo. And what do you think the ceiling is for them in the tournament this season?
Yeah, they've been – look, they've exceeded my expectations. I thought that this team was a year away Nate Oates came in, changed the culture, hardworking, always fight for a loose ball, always fight for a rebound. I think this team is special because you look in the beginning of the year, they lost some very winnable games against Clemson. And yes, I know they've lost 2 out of the last 3 to a ranked Oklahoma team on the road, which came down to the wire, and then a ranked Missouri team on the road, which, again, huge comeback. Alabama should have got blown out of that game, and they came back, and it came down to the last possession. So this Alabama team is fun. They're hard. They're hard-nosed. I will say this, though, is that they live and die by the 3. So as much as I love John Petty, if those threes aren't falling in this Nate Oates offense, that's been our Achilles heel. But we've just had this miracle, I wouldn't say miracle run, but this great run over the last couple weeks where those threes have been falling. Like if you go back and look at the LSU game a couple weeks ago, we hit a record high threes. John Petty is a walking bucket. I think this team's ceiling is Final Four. I mean, right now they're a projected number 1 seed.
Final Four?
Yes, I think tournament time they are going to be a dangerous team that's going to wear a lot of people out. I mean, right now they're a projected 1 seed, and I mean it's hard to argue with the results. I mean, they're number 1 in the SEC right now. I mean, they're top 20 in the nation in steals. They're top 15 in the nation in rebounds. They live and die by the 3. I think they played some really good teams they played a stretch that could have easily had them at 500. You go and you go beat Tennessee. You go beat Florida. You go beat Auburn. You go beat LSU. You sweep LSU. You beat Kentucky, which, yes, I know Kentucky's having a down year, but they swept Kentucky this year, a team that has had Alabama's number over the years because they are the program in the SEC. I just think this Alabama team is hard-nosed. I think the biggest thing for them, especially in this COVID year when you see these top programs not really living up to their usual hype, a lot of these guys came back and they played together and they have a really good chemistry. And now that they're adding these really good young recruits, that is starting to click. So I think this Alabama team is okay. Yes, they have played 3 really good teams in a row, playing, again, Oklahoma on the road, at home against LSU, taking care of business, and then at Missouri. I think this team can be dangerous. I think they can easily win the SEC tournament, and I think that they have the potential to get to the Elite 8, and yes, I think the Final Four.
Very, very interesting. Your take of Alabama sports is very interesting. And by the way, we would love to get you on when the Final Four, March Madness begins in the next couple of weeks. I would love to hear your take on your bracket, and maybe we should set up a bracket with some maybe. We'll get 40 to 50 people to get involved with this and see whose bracket hits. I think it'll be very, very interesting. This is another year of an open bracket. I think there could be a team that really you wouldn't expect that could make it to the Final Four and makes it to the Final Four and maybe wins a national title. I really believe this year could be the year that we wouldn't expect an 8th or 9th or maybe even a 10th seed win the national title. It's crazy. It really is. Cruz, why don't you tell the fans how they can find you on social media?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at The Real Cruz Ox. And then, of course, you can follow the Cruise Control podcast at Pod Cruise Control on Twitter. I'm very active on there, so definitely shoot me a follow. I'll follow back. And then anytime you want to interact with me, just let me know. Thank you guys for having me on. I appreciate it. It's been fun.
Absolutely. I would love to get you on again. And I would love to get your bracket on who you're going to – obviously, you're going to pick Alabama to win the whole thing, Mr. Alabama fan over here.
Well, I'm an Alabama fan, but I'm also a realist. So, I mean, right now it's hard to pick against Gonzaga now. As much as I love Alabama right now and Alabama and how they played this year, it's like picking against Alabama in football, like not picking Gonzaga this year.
I'm going to take Gonzaga to lose in probably the 2nd or 3rd round. I don't think Gonzaga is as good as everybody thinks they are. They have a lot of size. Every year they have a lot of size, and they're a very good rebounding team. But there are games that they don't get their offensive game up in front and the way they're supposed to be playing. They're very well defended defensive team. The way they defend the ball, they're a very good defensive team. But offensively, they force shots. We've seen Gonzaga over the years. They love to force 3-point shots, and they're known for shooting threes. And usually they get into their problems shooting the ball in a game that you don't expect, and they get knocked out by a team you don't expect them to get knocked out by. So I do not believe Gonzaga is going to win the national title this year. That's just my opinion. Cruz, thank you for joining us. I would definitely like to get you on this show again.
Absolutely, man. Thank you guys for having me. I had a blast, and you guys have a great rest of your day.
Absolutely. We were just talking to the host of Cruise Control Podcast, Cruz Oxenreider. By the way, I think he's awesome. I think his take with Alabama sports is very interesting because you know what? We have Mark Kelly on, and Mark is a big Alabama fan. He loves to preach Alabama sports, and he gives you a good intake. But Cruz gave you something else. He knows a lot about his team. He played. I mean, he didn't play. He went to school in Alabama, and he knows his Alabama sports. So it's and his take on the NFL Super Bowl with Tom Brady and his thoughts that he thinks that he is the greatest quarterback of all time. I disagree, but he never saw Joe Montana play. Joe Montana never lost a Super Bowl. And that's the way I look at it. If you go into a Super Bowl and you never lose in a Super Bowl, well, you know, you can't really argue that he's never lost in a Super Bowl. He never lost in the big game. Tom Brady lost 3 games in the big game. And all 3 of those teams were in the NFC East. He has this problem against the NFC East teams. Obviously, the Eagles and the 2 against the New York Football Giants. When we come back, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to talk to another show on Belly Up Sports. We will be talking to the boys from New Era Sens, and they're both co-founders and owners of the organization. So we'll have them on right after our break here on Down to the Wire.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
Of course my kid's in the right car seat. Well, I think he is.
Yeah, my kid's in a booster seat. He was ready to move up. He is ready, right?
Her car seat looks like the right size.
There are probably rules on when to move up to a booster seat, aren't there?
Rear facing, forward facing. I think I have it right.
Car crashes are a leading killer of children 1 to 13. Are your children in the right car seat for their age and size? Don't think you know. Know you know. Go to safercar.gov/the right seat.
I know my child's in the right car seat, or else I wouldn't get in the driver's seat.
Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
You don't usually get a stock tip from a 16-year-old, but I'm here to tell you about a different kind of stock. It's called Better Futures, a stock for social change that's not about making money. Instead, you invest to help students like me go to college. This is beyond a simple donation. It's the opportunity for America to invest in its kids and take an active stake in the future of the country. The return on your investment isn't money. What you get back is knowing you protected our potential. So one day, that potential can grow up to become surgeons and architects, executives and engineers, people who can change the future just by being a part of it. My name is Alicia, and I am your dividend.
Invest in better futures with UNCF. Visit uncf.org/invest. A mind is a terrible thing to waste, but a wonderful thing to invest in. A public service announcement brought to you by UNCF and the Ad Council.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. You're listening to Down to the Wire on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
A little Lincoln Park, that's what I'm talking about. How could you not like Lincoln Park? I love them. As you guys know, this is Down to the Wire. I'm your host, Errol Marks. My co-host, Mr. Tidy Whitey Man himself, Speedy Pete. Remember, you can call us at 500-48. I got to remember the new number. I forget the number all the time. You can also go to our website at www.worldwidesportsradio.com. Download our app on iOS. Yes, iOS, which is Apple, WWSRN, or Android, Worldwide Sports Radio Network. Well. By the way, I will say this. Cruz gave us some good insight of the NFL, the Super Bowl. And by the way, I look at Alabama sports. I am not a huge Alabama fan. As a matter of fact, anybody that knows me, in football, I'm a Florida State fan. In basketball, I'm a Duke fan. So when I watch college sports, and by the way, hockey, I'm a Maine fan. So any of these colleges are all lackadaisical. I'm all over the place when it comes to college sports. That's because when growing up, I followed certain players, so I still root those teams on, even though they stink, including the Duke Blue Devils, who probably won't make the national champ. They might not make March Madness for the first time in, I think, like 25, 30 years. It's crazy. They might not even make the March Madness. But anyways, it's not about me. It's about these two guys. As you guys know, we are now talking to new era Sens podcast personalities, Joseph David and Brennan Detzler. What's going on, Joe and Brennan? What's going on, guys?
What's up, buddy? How's it going?
I'm good, man. I'm not dancing. I'm definitely not happy to watch Tom Brady win another Super Bowl. That's for damn.
We talked about this yesterday on our podcast where I voted against Brady every year to be the best guy ever. But this year was the first year where I can actually root for the guy. And now I know what it feels like to be a Brady fan. And these guys have been able to celebrate a lot over the last 20 years. So,
well, I know you guys are hockey guys. You're more hockey guys than you are a football guy. So we'll stay away from the whole football thing. But I will say this: me as a Tom Brady hater, I'm a Jet fan growing up. I never liked Tom Brady. Still don't like Tom Brady, but I can take away winning 7 titles in 10 tries. And the way he did it, and he didn't have one of those games that stuck out to you like when he did against the Eagles when he had over 500 yards, or against the Atlanta Falcons coming back from a 20-some-odd deficit in the fourth quarter. He didn't do one of those, but 201 yards, 3 touchdowns, and didn't throw any interception, and his passing rating was over 125. That's pretty fantastic. You can't argue the point that Tom Brady isn't one of the top 2 quarterbacks of all time. I still don't think he's better than Joe Montana, because Joe never lost in the Super Bowl. And to me, if you don't lose in the Super Bowl, just like Michael Jordan never lost in the NBA championship, Michael Jordan's the greatest athlete and greatest, I would say, the greatest all-around professional athlete of all time. But Tom Brady, you could put him in that argument now. You could put Tom Brady there, Babe Ruth, Serena Williams, Pete Sampras, Rafael Nadal, or Roger Federer, whoever you want, Tiger Woods or Jack Nicklaus, anybody you want. You can argue some of the greatest athletes to ever play in professional sports. And by the way, Wayne Gretzky, you can't forget about him, or Mario Lemieux, who I've always put in front of Wayne because there was just something about Mario Lemieux that really stuck out to me as a kid. One of the greatest hands I've ever seen. I actually skated on the ice with Mario Lemieux when I was younger, and one of the biggest men I've ever seen in my complete life. Right? The guy is huge. On skates, he's about 6'7", 6'8". He's a lot bigger than people think that he is. He's 6'6", not on skates. He's a huge man, fantastic skater. It wasn't fast, but fantastic when it came to the way he moved the puck. The way he had great hands. But anyways, tell us a little bit. First of all, how are you guys doing with the pandemic, you and your families? And tell us a little bit about your podcast.
Yeah, I mean, I'm doing great, man. I'm happy that you asked. Obviously, the whole dynamic in the world, especially living in Canada, a lot has changed because of the pandemic. I work completely from home now, which is interesting, but we've been able to spend more time on the things that we enjoy. And our podcast is one of the new ones in the Sens community. We started up. I wasn't even originally on the team. It was Dave and our co-host Nick and another guy, Naft, who had originally started New Era Sens in the summertime. And it's been growing rapidly. We've been really successful with the people that we've been able to have on, current and former players, just different people in the hockey community. And you know what? Like, I think during the pandemic, it's been something to keep us busy and something to look forward to. So yeah.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun, honestly.
So-
We started the website during a pandemic before the hockey season even started, and we did a lot of our growing before hockey started. So yeah, we're pretty blessed that way.
So, how did both of you become Ottawa Senators fans or following the team and as such? And if so, if you're both Ottawa Senators fans for a while, what have been your favorite games that you've attended and also favorite moments watching the team?
So I've been a fan since they came back into the league. I'm old enough to remember those days. I remember the first game I attended was a February game. I think it was a Valentine's special between Ottawa and Montreal, and there was a lot of fights in the first period. Ottawa was a terrible hockey team, worse than they are today. Um, but yeah, I remember going with my dad and my uncle, and there was fights even in the stands. It was crazy, but what made me fall in love with hockey.
But by the way, before I'm seeing what people are writing over here, my take on Mario Lemieux with Tom Brady. I never said Tom Brady isn't better than Mario Lemieux. When I put on the top echelon of greatest athletes in their sports, you could put Tom Brady there. You could put Jerry Rice there. Joe Montana too. I'm not arguing that Tom Brady isn't better than Mario Lemieux. By the way, it's harder to win a hockey championship than an NFL championship because you got to play 7 games and you got to go for round to round. So I don't know what you guys are talking about. And what is the hardest trophy to win? The Stanley Cup. And Mario Lemieux won not one, but 2 Stanley Cup championships back-to-back years. So please, I don't want to hear your crap and this stuff. It's more impressive what Tom Brady did. Tom Brady played in the AFC East against some of the worst teams in NFL history, the Miami Dolphins, the New York Jets, and the Buffalo Bills. By the way, the Pittsburgh Penguins, go look at the division they played in when they were good with Mario Lemieux and tell me, and you come back and tell me who's better and who's not. It's ridiculous. And I am not arguing that Tom Brady isn't better than Mario Lemieux. So please stop taking shots at what I say and saying it's a bad take. And again, Montana never lost in the Super Bowl. And that's all I'm going to say about that. And until you could prove me otherwise, there are 3 losses that Tom Brady had. And I'm not taking away from that. And I still think Tom Brady could be argued as the greatest quarterback of all time. And coming from me saying that is saying a lot. Because if I'm going to say that Tom Brady, you can argue he's the greatest quarterback of all time now than ever, you could say, Errol, wow, you're coming out of your cocoon. You're coming out of your shell. So me saying that is saying a lot. So please, if you're going to take a shot at me, come at me a little bit stronger than the crap that you're coming at me. Anyways, I'm sorry, guys. I had to say that. Yeah, I'm just sick and tired of people telling me or arguing with me on social media, telling me, oh, he's the GOAT. He's the GOAT. That's your opinion. That's your opinion. I still don't think you want to say about GOAT. The greatest football player of all time is Jerry Rice. His records will never be broken. Never be broken. That's who the greatest player in NFL history is. That's all I'm going to say. Let's get back to hockey. So what are your thoughts in the last couple of years? They traded away Zibanejad. They traded away Hoffman. They traded away some of the great players we've seen, and they've gone on to bigger and better things. And some of them have gone on and been successful all the different places. Zibanejad is one of the best players on the Rangers. Hoffman, he's been all over the place. He was in Florida, and now he's playing right now for St. Louis, a championship team. So what are your thoughts on moving along with some of the great superstar players that they've had over the last couple of years?
Yeah, I think the Zibanejad one is one that stings for me. That trade in particular hurt because it was right when we were making a push. And I do think that Derek Brassard was a big part of the Ottawa Senators when they went on their run in 2017, where we were a goal away from the final when Chris Kunitz broke all of our hearts. But aside from that, like I think that a lot of the moves needed to happen, as much as that hurts to say, especially because in the moment it was a really fresh wound. And watching all of your favorite players, I think it was 6 or 7 of our best players got moved within like a 24-month period. And like, as a fan, like that's a kind of like you have you're pissed off at management. You're pissed off at what's going on, because like these are the guys that you watch every night and you appreciate their games. But I think when you look at it, there was a year, like at least 1 year when they started moving these guys, and then 2 years where all of a sudden after that playoff run, the Ottawa Senators fell to the bottom of the league. And I think management recognized that with the team that they had, they were going to have to pay these guys big contracts, but they weren't a contender. So I think in their opinions, they were thinking, well, we're going to have to pay these guys. And if we're not going to be making the playoffs consistently, but we're paying to the cap, then what's the point? Why don't we blow it up? And why don't we rebuild it? And I think now looking back in hindsight, it's a lot easier to be like, you know what? I really respect that decision, because I do. Like Erik Karlsson was my God. And we traded this guy for Rudolph Balcers? I didn't know who this guy was. Like, I had no idea what was going on. And now I look back, we have this German kid, Tim Stützle, with a bit of luck. Josh Norris looks like he's going to be a hell of a player. He's already playing a first-line center role in the NHL. And, I mean, he's good. Like, he's playing well with Tkachuk. And, I mean, I'm happy with it now. But in the moment, I would be lying if I said I wasn't a little upset.
You mentioned Stützle as being one of the other young players that have really been a big difference maker with Ottawa so far. You got him, you got Brady Tkachuk, you got Shabbat, who I see the jersey behind you, Joseph, one of the best young defensemen we've seen really in the league so far in recent memory. So what do you think about those young player developments? And do you think the coaching staff has done a good job really maintaining and developing those players?
So I think first off, I love our young core. I love the Tim Stützles and Shabbat and stuff. These guys are the future of the team. And right now we have some of the older guys who are coming in, and I'm not going to call them plugs, but they're just filling out a roster spot until some of the other guys can come into their game. We still have guys down in the minors like Logan Brown, who is called up now, Alex Formanton, so we have quite a pool of prospects and rookies. Now, as far as the way coaching has handled it, it was no secret they've handled it pretty poor since the beginning of the season. It's come out today, they were saying there's been a plan since day one, and so everyone has been exactly where they're supposed to be as planned. Now I think when you look at a guy like DJ, who's still a young coach, he's only in his second year coaching in the NHL, he's just falling back on what he's learned as a coach. In tough moments, you fall back on your veteran players, and that's one of the things you learn as a coach right from day one. So I think he's starting to come around a bit more, playing the young guys a bit more. He's taking the leash off of Tim Stützle a little bit more. Brady Tkachuk is just going to be Brady Tkachuk. At the end of the day, every team wants a Brady Tkachuk. Ottawa's really lucky to have him. That guy's a heart and soul player. That guy will bleed for anybody on that team. If you've ever watched his interviews, he has zero connections to Ottawa before becoming an Ottawa Senator, but now that kid bleeds the city. He loves the city. He loves his teammates. And with a leader like that, and I hope he gets to see, but with a leader like that on the team, that team has so much potential. We're going places. Just wait.
We are talking to New Era Sens podcast personalities Joseph David and Brennan Detzler. Now, I will say this: I was there at the draft when Brady Tkachuk got drafted. I've met Keith; he's a real, you know what? I'm not going to say it on live radio. He's a real ass. And Matthew Tkachuk is another ass. And Brady, I spoke to Brady for maybe 5 seconds, and maybe he might be a nice guy. Maybe on TV or on radio, he's a nice guy. But personally, I think the whole family can kiss my rear end. That's just my opinion. I met Keith Tkachuk when, believe it or not, I was on the ice when the St. Louis Blues won the Stanley Cup, and Keith was on the ice, and we interviewed Keith Tkachuk. He's not one of those nice guys. He's not really much he doesn't really say much. If you're not a named person like a Brett Hull or somebody like that asking him questions, he'll answer questions with 1 or 2 word answers. He's not a very nice guy. Fantastic hockey player. Fantastic. Keith Tkachuk is one of the greatest American-born hockey players to ever play the game. And anybody that argues that doesn't know what they're talking about. And Matthew Tkachuk is one of the most underrated hockey players in the NHL right now. And Brady Tkachuk, I think, is going to be better than Matthew because of his ability of some of the things that he likes to do. And he's a great leader. He's a better leader than Matthew. I don't know how long Matthew's going to be in Calgary. I think he's going to weigh out his presence over there. And I think there'll be other teams more interested in him in the long run. So tell me a little bit on your thoughts. In the last 2 years of his growth, Brady Tkachuk, he's their superstar. He's their leader. He's the guy. He's the face of the Ottawa Senators. Tell me a little bit about your thoughts on where you see Brady Tkachuk's ceiling will be in the future.
Yeah, I think Brady Tkachuk is just I think his ceiling is going to be if not one of the best net front presence guys in the NHL. I think that last year he was on pace to be the first player in NHL history to record 300 shots and 300 hits in the same season, which as a 21-year-old, that's unbelievable. Like, the kid is still filling into his frame. He's still finding his game. I don't know. I think that he will put up a lot of points. I don't know. There might be one season where Matthew Tkachuk puts up more points than Brady does. Kind of that goes down. Maybe he ends up with more points when the year ends. But just Brady's impact on the game, I think that we see it now so often in these power forwards. We saw how important Tom Wilson was when Washington won that Stanley Cup. We saw how important, well, at least Canadians have seen how important Josh Anderson is in Montreal. If you guys have been tuned in to any of their games, like, he has been such a force and really changed the way that they play. And like, you having that kind of guy, like, it's one of those things. Pierre Dorion, when they drafted Tkachuk, and I know Ottawa fans, when we opted to pick 4th overall, we passed on Zadina, we took Tkachuk, and we ended up giving Colorado the next pick. Like, there was definitely some question marks, but aside from that, like, now we're really watching this guy in the last 2 years and just all the things that he does and how he continues to grow his game. And when he gets pissed off, how he decides to fight. He's our best forward, and he's willing to go out there and fight another guy that pisses him off or picks on a teammate. And I just think, like, as a fan of that team, like, and just watching him go, I think that his ceiling is so high because he's willing to work for it. And he might never be an 80 or 90 point guy. He'll probably be in the 70 range, in my opinion. I think, like, in terms of points, 30 goals, I think he has the creativity to maybe get 40 points in a full, or 40 assists in a full season. Just being in front of the net. He is a decent playmaker too, but I think just his impact in how physical he can be, like, he could be the reason that the Ottawa Senators win a Stanley Cup in the future. He could be a huge part in that. And that's what I see his ceiling as, is just being one of the best power forwards in the league.
So they got a new goalie in Matt Murray, which is a very interesting trade that the Penguins made. They were having trouble with the cap, so they decided to move on from Murray. He's had some injury issues after winning the 2 Stanley Cups. But he's still young at the same time. So where do you think he'll be as essentially a short-term option right now and also a long-term option? Are you concerned about the injuries, or do you think this is a good thing for Ottawa, who's, after Craig Anderson had that 1 great year or 2 great years, really have had trouble finding goaltending?
Yeah, so I think the injuries, they're a little bit of a concern, but Matt Murray's still young, like you said. So I'm not too concerned about him re-injuring himself too much. To be honest with you, I was pretty vocal when Ottawa went and traded for him. I was against it at first because Ottawa has a bunch of young, up-and-coming goalies that are going to be really good. In Joey Decord, for example, who I personally think is the future of this team. And you can't put him as a backup, and you can't put him on the bench for 5 years. You just cannot do that. So I personally think Matt Murray is just an expensive bench warmer in the future. Right now, he has not performed the way Ottawa is expecting him to. We went and got him so that he can seal games, so that he can make incredible saves, fully knowing what the team is this year. You know, we have bad defense. There's no expectations on the team. But, you know, we went and grabbed Matt Murray. Matt Murray's supposed to be our savior, win games for us, and he hasn't done that. I mean, he's performed better the last couple of games. Right now, they just finished the first period against Edmonton, and he's looking pretty good. So hopefully the jitters are out, whatever it is, and he starts to play for what's worth for his contract. But at the end of the day, I think Matt Murray is going to be irrelevant in 3 years when you have a young Joey Decord coming up. Unless Matt Murray spends the next 3 years really wowing everybody, I think he's just an expensive bench warmer in the future.
As you guys know, we are talking to New Era Sens podcast personalities from Belly Up Sports, Joseph David and Brennan Detzler. Now, Detzler is a good hockey name, by the way, because I played hockey and I was a top prospect. I don't know if you guys know anything about me. That's what I used to play. I played almost 16 years of top-end hockey. I played against Sidney Crosby. I've skated with some my line mates, Chris Higgins, Kamasarek. I was a I was being looked at as a top low end first round draft pick, early second round draft pick when I was going to play college hockey, and I hurt my knee, and it's a whole long story. So I know a little bit about hockey. I know a lot about hockey, but what are your thoughts because of the COVID-19, the shortness of the season, some of these, I guess, divisions? Do you guys like the divisions that were set up? I know the Islanders and the Rangers and Devils got screwed in the division that they're in. So do you guys like the structure of Gary Bettman's division stature that he has made this year in a short season?
So I love it just because I really want to see the rivalries come back in terms of like the Ottawa Senators. So I'm biased here. Like I love the fact that Ottawa gets to play Toronto a little more than they would, Montreal a bunch, but now we get to see a Brady and a Matthew Tkachuk showdown. Like 9 times I think it was this season, and just being able, we get to see Connor McDavid 8 times, and like it's just. In terms of that, like there was 2 fights in the first 5 minutes of the Edmonton Ottawa game today because the rivalry has just been set up that much quicker. I think just the way that it's set up, it's almost like a mini playoff because there's often 3 games against the same 2 teams, and they're able to kind of build up that haste and things get serious and it gets real physical. And like, it's a lot grindier. And like, I love that part of hockey. I miss that part of hockey. I want to tune into games. I love the Battle of Alberta last year because you didn't know what was going to happen next. You didn't know if the entire benches were going to clear 5 minutes into the game and everyone's going to be throwing it down. In terms of that, I love it. In terms of the difficulty of the division and the way that they were spread, I don't know that it was done the most equally. I could definitely see if I was an Islanders or Rangers or any team's fan in that division, I probably wouldn't be the happiest because they definitely got the short end of the stick. And even as an Ottawa fan, I'm not too thrilled because we all expected going into the season that we would finish at the bottom of this division because of how good a lot of these teams are that we're playing. The majority of them are playoff teams or close to. And so yeah, I mean, in terms of entertainment, I love it. In terms of where teams are going to finish, how equally spread it was done, it might not have been done the best, but I think given the circumstances and given the fact that from the Canadian government, they really pushed the fact that it was either going to have to be a Canadian division or they were going to go to the States. Like international travel was kind of out of the question. I think that they did a decent job given what it was. I'll maybe give it like a 7.5 out of 10.
A lot higher than I thought.
So what about from the strategy standpoint of this kind of year? You're getting these 2 and 3 game series, kind of like what you see in baseball now. And it kind of has that feel of a playoff series, like you were saying, Brennan, with the rivalries, with the fighting. You kind of have that feel with the physical play. Now, in terms of the strategy, in terms of maybe platooning goalies, in terms of healthy scratches versus the taxi squad, how that's worked this year, how do you think that has impacted both game planning and also roster construction that these coaches have to do this year?
Yeah, I think it's affected quite a bit, man. Like right now, it's a lot of the confidence too. Like when you look at the Ottawa Senators, you look at a lot of their guys, and they're really scared to get put on taxi squad, right? EJ Smith is not scared to pull that trigger, and so a lot of the guys are playing a little paranoid, or I think they're starting to get a little more comfortable with what's going on right now. In terms of the miniseries, I love the miniseries the same way that MLB does it. Those are the best because you play 3 games. And then you start to build up that animosity versus your opponent. And then all of a sudden you're off to Winnipeg to play them. And then you're like, oh man, I can't wait. I can't wait for that next mini series, right? Which is right now where Ottawa and Edmonton are at, like Brendan was saying. And right off the bat within first 5 minutes, like you said, 2 fights. That built up from the last series, right? And I guarantee you, by the end of that season, we're going to see Matthew Tkachuk fight Cassian. It's going to happen. But yeah, so as far as coaching strategies go, it is a little tougher, right? Because you can't just call up guys from your AHL team or whatever. You kind of have the team that you have. You have your taxi squad. You can call up guys, but I mean, like as far as game day decisions go, you can't just call somebody from the AHL and tell them to get on an airplane and be like, you're playing in 6 hours. So you got to be smart with how you play your players, and then same with the goaltenders, man. You got to be really smart about your goaltenders. One goes down, then you're left with the 2 guys, and you're like, okay, well, that's still easy with 2 guys. Well, we've all watched hockey games where some no-name had to step into the net and play and then turn into a hero for the game. But yeah, strategy-wise, it's not fun. It's just, I guarantee you guys like DJ Smith, who's a second-year coach, is probably crapping his pants daily, not sure what he's going to do.
Speedy likes to crap his pants. That's why he doesn't wear any underwear. He doesn't. He doesn't wear any underwear, especially when he does his show. By the way,
I'm wearing underwear.
He wears a lot of tighty whities too. By the way, guys, so, SpongeBob and Scooby Doo. So,
No, I don't.
Yes, he does. Anyways, before we let you guys go, listen to me. Trust me, man. Trust me. You do not want to see the underwear that he wears when he does. Anyways, before we let you guys go, I want to know, being that it's a short season, I'm going to give you awards, okay? And I'm going to get, so we'll go with Brendan first, and then we'll go with Joe, okay? So first thing, MVP this year in the NHL. Who do you guys got?
That's a tough one. I have to go Connor McDavid. He has come out flying. He's looked electric. He's somehow getting better and faster, and he's learned how to control his speed in ways that now he can stop like on a dime. He just seems to find lanes as if he's a running back in the NFL, and he just goes through it and goes through these guys. And yeah, I would have to give it to him. He's been just absolutely dynamite.
I'm going to go with Leon Draisaitl because pretty much the same reasons as McDavid. The only difference is he plays on the second line and gets more points. But yeah, when you watch Leon Draisaitl play, it's like watching a train, man. It's insane. The guy has hands. He's got speed. He's a big body, and he does it all from the second line. And he can do everything. He is my number one fantasy guy.
So you both have two guys from Edmonton. Figure that one out. It is crazy. Edmonton has a lot of talent. I'm surprised they haven't even gone to a Stanley Cup with some of the young players that they have. It's pretty incredible right now. All right, goaltender of the year. Who do you got? Brendan first.
Ooh, I'm trying to go off the board here. I don't want to just pick the regular ones. As much as I want to say Andrei Vasilevsky, who've been some other standouts. I have to say Andrei Vasilevsky. There's been games where Tampa, like I think Tampa still is as dominant as they have been the last couple of years, in my opinion.
Easiest division out of all of them. They are an easy division. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. And I mean, like, that's just it. He might only need to make a couple big saves a night, and they're going to win because they'll probably score 4 goals. But I still think it's impressive what he does, and I think he does keep them in a lot of games. And I think that he's a great goalie, and I think he's 7-1-1 to start the year. I know he's on a great team, but still, I would have to give it to him.
I'm not a big fan of Carey Price, but at the end of the day, I got to give it to Carey Price. Montreal has made some pretty significant changes in the offseason, and that team has turned around and become one of the best. If they got to play against everybody, one of the best in the leagues. And Carey Price has been really good throughout the years. He's had some off seasons, but this year he's been incredible. He's been phenomenal. And again, I'm not a big fan of Carey Price, but yeah, I'm going to go with Carey Price.
If he stays healthy, Carey Price is one of the best goalies in the NHL. There's no question that he is. Problem with Carey Price is the guy can't stay healthy. He never stays healthy. He's got a bad foot. He's got a bad ankle. He's got a bad ass. He's got a bad left cheek. His knee is hurting him. Oh, he's got to sit out. His elbow is hurting him. Oh, he lost a tooth, so he's out for a couple of games. I don't know. Carey Price just, for some reason, the guy can't stay on his 2 feet. Coach of the year. What are you guys' thoughts of coach of the year? I know it's early in the season and it's anybody's game right now, but being that it's a short season, who do you guys got as coach of the year?
Jack Adams, eh?
I'm gonna go Rob Brind'Amour. I like Carolina. I always have, just because like I feel like someone has to, and I mean like I think their team looked really. Been playing really well. Obviously, they're structured like that, but I mean, like you got Rod the Bod going in there, or Rod the Bod going in there and getting everyone to bring in their full effort. And Carolina's looked like a force. So I got to give it to him. I think he's a big reason why that team was able to turn it around. And I think that this has been the year that they look the best, in my opinion, yet. So yeah, I got to give it to Rod.
Oh, he's the ugliest nose word. He is the ugliest nose I've ever seen. I was in Dallas. We stayed in the same hotel as Rob Brindamore and the Carolina Hurricanes. And I remember that was his first year as the head coach of the Carolina Hurricanes. And we were in the same elevator. I turn around and I see Rob Brindamore standing right behind me. And I knew it was Rob Brindamore because of his ugly nose. He has one of the worst noses I've ever seen. It is terrible. And I said, "What's going on, Robbie? How are you?" He's like, "Oh, good, man. Where are you from?" "Oh, let me guess. You're from the East Coast." I was like, "That's right. And where are you from? Noseville?" And I said something funny to him, and he's like, "Oh, I got what you were saying. He has a good sense of humor." Rob Brindamore is Speedy's laughing right there, but I did say that, by the way. If you know me on my show, I don't really hold back on what I say. So I said something about his nose. He heard me say it, and he started cracking up because he knows he has an ugly nose. Anyways, I'm sorry, Joe. Who do you got?
I was gonna say the same one, but I'm gonna go with Alain Vigneault. I think he's coaching some of his best hockey in Philly. He did good with Vancouver. He did all right with New York, but he's really turning things around right now with Philly. And Philly's they're becoming the old Philly, right? The guys who can bang and they can score. I know, and then you got Hart in net, and I got to give it to Vigneault. I think at the end of the day, that guy is probably going to be the Jack Adams winner.
Peter Laviolette, and that's who I think is going to be the coach of the year with the Washington Capitals. He's you could see what that team is doing. They're actually playing even more defense than we've seen since Barry Trotz has left. So it's pretty incredible what Peter has been doing. All right, last question, and I know it's early. Who do you got going to the Stanley Cup?
Colorado Avalanche and Philadelphia Flyers.
Wow, he's pretty sure about that. You know that? Colorado Avalanche and the Philadelphia Flyers. Brendan has that. Who you got, Joe?
You keep saying everything I'm going to say, dude.
I bet on it, so
I'm going Philly because I think Philly's going to be one of the hardest teams to beat down. At the end of the day, they're gonna go through the series. They're gonna play 7 games and they're gonna win and they're gonna keep going. And then Colorado's due, man. They're not going down very easily this year. And I think same thing. Colorado, Philly.
Colorado's fast. They're young. They have such an ability. They have a knack to put the puck in the net. And by the way, their defense is pretty damn good too, and one of the best goaltenders in the NHL as well, and a very good coach. So they're packed. And by the way, their GM is Joe Sakic. So a very good, well built, oiled machine in the Colorado Avalanche. But before we let you guys go, why don't you tell the fans how they can find you on social media?
So for myself, I'm JD_Senators on Twitter. We also have our main Twitter account for the podcast, which is New Era Sens Pod, or our main account, which is just New Era Sens on Twitter. We're also on Instagram, which is the same thing. New Era Sens YouTube channel. Go subscribe, guys. New Era Sens. It's everywhere. It doesn't change.
Yeah, and my personal @ on Twitter is Brennan Detzler. But yeah, the New Era Sens account, New Era Sens Pod, that's where we're posting all of our stuff, and we love to interact with the Sens community. So if anyone, if there's any Senators fans out there, feel free to go aboard.
I like you guys, and I want to get you guys on very, very soon because the NHL season is very, very short, and Mike Brown speaks very highly of you guys, and I did check out one of your episodes recently on YouTube, and I think you guys are very talented. You guys know your team, and you have a lot of passion, and that's what you need when it comes to building something that people are going to enjoy, entertainment-wise and personalities-wise. So you both you deliver a different approach to your team, and you can see why you guys are really co-founders of this this show. I think it's very, very unique, and keep up the good work. And you have new fans in me and Speedy, so I really like you guys.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it, and thanks for having us on. Appreciate the time.
Absolutely. We were just talking to New Era Senators podcast personalities, Joseph David and Brennan Detzler. Great kids. You can see it, Speedy. Great personalities. They know they're Ottawa Senators, that's for sure. So very, very interesting. Are we going to get Mark on or what? He popped in and then he popped out. Are we going to get him on? Because I had a bone to pick with him. Okay. I definitely got a
I
bone.
told him to come back in, so I'm just awaiting it.
When did you tell him to get back in? Because I'm waiting for the mastermind. I'm waiting for the mastermind to sneak right in. But anyways, I will say this, okay? And I know a lot of people don't like my take about Tom Brady. Okay, they still don't accept the fact that I still say Tom Brady is the second best quarterback of all time. I won't put him as the GOAT, but I can argue that he could be considered as the greatest quarterback of all time. People still don't like it. I don't understand. What more do you want me to say? I'm telling you that Joe Montana never lost in a Super Bowl. You can say whatever you want. Tom Brady has 7 and Joe Montana's 4. Yes, Joe Montana had a great defense and a great offense. You still got to win the game. And Joe Montana played better defensive teams. Look who Joe Montana had to beat in the Super Bowl. Go look. Go look at the defenses he had to beat. And by the way, in those days, defensive players could hold on to wide receivers' jerseys, hold them down, pat them down, grab their leg while they're trying to. How many penalties were there in the first half of the game? In the 80s, there would have been no penalties the way they were playing in the game. So I'm sorry. It's a different sport. It's a different time. If Joe Montana played in this time and he played on all those teams of the New England Patriots, and yes, everybody says, well, he had Jerry Rice. Well, Tom Brady had Gronkowski, arguably the greatest tight end of all time. So don't give me this crap that Tom Brady never played with great players. He had Antonio Brown on his team this year. He had Mike Evans on his team. He had arguably 3 of the top 20 offensive players on his team this year. He had a great running back in Leonard Fournette, who, by the way, got dropped by the Jacksonville Jaguars in the prime of his career. And when he stays healthy, he's one of the best running backs in the league. So to say what you want to say. Now, I'm not saying that Tom Brady doesn't deserve any of the credit. He deserves the credit. And by the way, he did beat Drew Brees. He didn't beat Drew Brees. The defense beat Drew Brees. He didn't beat Aaron Rodgers. The defense beat Aaron Rodgers. Okay? Aaron Rodgers beat himself. Aaron Rodgers should have ran in for how many touchdowns? Did he beat Mahomes? Yeah, he beat Mahomes. Did he outplay Mahomes? Yes, he did. He didn't outplay Aaron Rodgers. Go watch the game. He didn't outplay Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers was the better quarterback. Did he outplay Drew Brees? An old Drew Brees is not the same quarterback as Drew Brees with his broken ribs. He came back injured. Who comes back in 3 or 4 weeks after he fractures 2 of his ribs? Okay? So please, don't tell me that he beat this guy and that guy. Now, again, Tom Brady deserves all the credit in the world because he beat who he had to beat. And he is one of the greatest quarterbacks ever played a game. And you can argue he's the GOAT when it comes to quarterbacks in NFL history. In my take, Montana was better than him because Montana never lost in the Super Bowl. And if everybody, quote unquote, counts Super Bowl championships, and that's how you compare and contrast the GOAT, well, obviously, you guys obviously don't know football because honestly, it takes a team to win a championship. It takes a whole team to win a championship. Tom Brady didn't win the NFL Super Bowl yesterday. His team won it. And if you would ask anybody from top to bottom, from quarterback all the way to defense in order, where would you strategically take in ratings on when you're picking why they won a championship? You would go defense 1, offensive line 2, and running game 3, then Tom Brady. Okay? That's the way you go. The offensive line played fabulous against a very good pass rush yesterday. That offensive line that was really rebuilt with a rookie tackle and a bunch of guys that were on a team last year that couldn't stop a nosebleed. All of a sudden, because Tom Brady's fast release, the way he steps back with 3 steps, the 3-step step back, and the way he throws these short passes, these screen passes, it helped this offensive line develop into a very good offensive line. And the offensive line, you should give the offensive line, Speedy, I would give the offensive line a lot of credit for what they did yesterday.
Yeah, they've been that way all playoffs. Donovan Smith has been particularly impressive as a left tackle, a guy that I always thought was kind of average to below average for the most part. Played well against some good pass rushers. You talk about Green Bay with the outside rushers with the two Smiths, New Orleans with a lot of good depth with the pass rush they had, and Smith did a nice job there as well, protecting Brady. And then in this game, Frank Clark was switching around different sides, but Frank Clark, the last, I think, 3 postseasons, has been the best statistical pass rusher. So that has to say something with how well he played. Wirfs has been tremendous all year. I mean, you can make a legitimate case, like offensive linemen usually don't win rookie of the year, but best performance rookie, you could argue, is Tristan Wirfs with the way he played this year all season long, and great in the postseason too.
He played well. And by the way, everybody says Montana didn't win with another team. Brady did. Yeah, Montana never played with the talented team that he had that they built with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Montana went to the Kansas City Chiefs. They had a good running game. What wide receiver did he throw to? He had nobody on that team. Nobody. Okay, so please don't tell me that Montana went to Kansas City and he couldn't win with Kansas City. He had nobody to throw to. So Tom Brady has 3. Antonio Brown, one of the greatest wide receivers of all time, and yes, he missed half the season, but he's still one of the most dangerous offensive players in the league. Mike Evans, who's a top 10 wide receiver in the league, even though his statistics don't show it this year, he still had 18 touchdowns this year. He has one of the best slot receivers in the league. He had O.J. Howard in the beginning of the year before he got hurt. He had Gronkowski, who came to the team. He still, even though he missed a year and he retired for a year, he's still one of the greatest tight ends I've ever played the game. Look at the other what's the other tight end's name? Cameron
Brate.
Cameron Brate, he's another guy, a very good tight end. And he had Jones and Fournette as his running backs. So please, if Joe Montana played on this in this offense in the prime of his career, even at 38, 39 years old, he would have probably went to the Super Bowl and probably won too. So please, I'm not saying that Tom Brady doesn't deserve the credit. I'm giving him all the credit in the world. But for you guys to say that Joe Montana is not even in the conversation as the GOAT, the greatest of all time, well, then I don't know what you guys are watching or if you even watched Joe Montana play. Because Joe Montana, he played against better defenses. He played in a time where you can hug and put your body on the wide receivers and hold on to the running backs when they're running out of the, in the backfield. You can't do that anymore. Look how many penalties were against Kansas City. Kansas City had, if you look at the game, 17 points were given up because of bad penalty calls in the first half. 17 out of what was the score of the game going into the second half? What was it, 20-something? What was it?
It was 21-6 at halftime.
21-6. 17 of the points were because of bad refereeing, bad play. The referees should have let the game go. They should have let the game play out, just like they did with the Green Bay Packers game. Do you remember the Green Bay Packers game? There were people holding on everybody. There was no penalties whatsoever. The game went so quick. All of a sudden in the Super Bowl, you see in the first half, it boded well for Brady. And how many times did we see Tampa and Devin White holding on to offensive players and nothing was called? So I don't want to hear it. Now, I'm going to give Tom Brady a lot of credit. I've said it again. If you're hearing me say that Tom Brady, you can argue that Tom Brady is one of the greatest he's the greatest quarterback of all time, him or Joe Montana, that's saying a lot for me because before this game, I put Tom Brady at 4. That's where I put him. Now I put him at 2, possibly 1. So for me to come out and say that, that's saying a lot about what I'm saying. So anyways, we finally got Mark Kelly on the show. What's going on, Mark?
Hey, guys. How you doing?
We're good, man. Obviously, you watch the Super Bowl, and everybody's having they're saying, "Oh, Brady's the GOAT." I know you think Brady's the GOAT because of statistics, and I beg to differ. When you made that take that Brady's the greatest athlete, the greatest sports athlete of all time, I beg to differ. Michael Jordan's the greatest athlete they'll ever play. But as you guys know, we do this every single Monday. We call this segment "Mark It Up."
This is Mark It Up. Mark It Up. Mark It Up.
I love it. Back with the old intro.
Yes, sir. So,
all right. So, Errol, when you say that about Jordan, because Jordan's definitely in rare territory. Okay, so when you say that about Jordan, what do you think is the definite difference between him and Brady that makes him better? Which is hard to compare anyway.
No, you can't compare two sports. I agree with you, Mark. But when somebody like Tyler Harrison, who never saw Michael Jordan play, and say that Tom Brady's the greatest athlete to ever play in professional sports, you never watched the guy play. So how would you know? When you were born, he was at the end of his career. You were 6 years old when he retired. So what? How would you know? How would you know about Michael Jordan? You saw Tom Brady at the prime of his career. Fine, good for you. You never saw Michael Jordan. I know you did. Mark. I did too.
Yeah.
So I saw Michael Jordan at the prime of his career. So anybody that say that Michael Jordan is the greatest athlete of all time, you never saw him play. I don't care how many clips you've seen. He is not Michael Jordan. But go ahead. I'm sorry, Mark.
Yeah, I okay. So I understand that part of it with Tyler, but again, as far as you having seen him play and me having seen him play, what's the difference for you? Not what Tyler, like what you disagree with Tyler, but why do you think Jordan is better based on what you've seen compared to what Brady has done?
Well, first of all, Michael Jordan played in a time where, in the game, the sport, defense was completely different. In the NBA, you could actually put two hands on the body. The defensive game was complete. You could throw somebody out in the, out in the crowd, and you wouldn't even get a flagrant foul. Now, if you put a pinky on somebody, you're going to be thrown and tossed out of the game. Different game. Also, Michael Jordan played with some of the greatest teams of all time. He played against some of the greatest players, Larry Bird, and he played against Magic Johnson and Isaiah Thomas, the Bad Street Pistons, and all the great teams, the New York Knicks, the great New York Knicks teams, and the Houston Rockets. I mean, he played against some of the greatest players of all time. The Charles Barkley, one of the greatest assembled teams in NBA history, the Olympic Dream Team. So, okay. And Michael Jordan, I mean, Tom Brady, yes, he played against great players, Peyton Manning and Drew Brees. Yeah, great players, all-around players, 53 team. There's 53, 56 players on a team. And in the time that Tom Brady dominated the game, the league was completely changed offensively to defensively. In those times when Montana played, you could put your hands on the wide receivers. You could put your hands on the running backs. Or you could even beat up the quarterback and knock him out of the game. You can't do that anymore. So It's a completely different game.
All right. No, I'll give you that the game has changed, and it's definitely geared more towards the quarterback now. There's no doubt about that. But if you look at even guys in the 70s, like what Kenny Stabler had to put up with, what Roger Staubach had to put up with, Terry Bradshaw. I mean, before 1978, you were allowed to basically put your hands all over the wide receivers. And they finally created the 5-yard rule in 78. And that's why you saw all those quarterbacks start to have much better years as far as completion percentage and touchdowns to interceptions. So that was really the cutoff, was 78. Even Bradshaw, before that, he wasn't a very good quarterback. And then after that, with Staubach, with Stallworth and Swan, they went from an okay offense to a dynamic offense, which is why they won their last 2 Super Bowls. But if you were going to compare Brady to every other athlete that we know, and using the same type of scenarios, which is age, which is the ability to consistently perform, during the regular season, and being able to consistently perform at a high level in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. And also now we know that now we know the success wasn't Belichick. We know the success was Brady. So now, that too, it goes along with it as well. So going to another place and winning with the Buccaneers, who the Buccaneers were not a favorite. If Brady's not there, they might make the playoffs, but they're certainly not a favorite to come out of that NFC. And I mean, like we were talking before the season started, not too many people, you included Speedy, there were a lot of, and even me, I didn't think Brady could get to the Super Bowl and win it with this team, but he did. So that was that was kind of like the last thing that he needed to check off on my list of things. He was already, in my opinion, but that just solidified it. So that's one reason, is his ability to consistently perform in his 20s, 30s, 40s, and his winning percentage is still the same now. His touchdowns to interceptions is still the same. Passing yardage is a little bit more. And we're talking at 43. Jordan was done by 38.
Jordan was done by 38, and then Jordan came back, and he tore his meniscus, and Jordan was playing at a high level when he was playing for the Wizards before he tore his meniscus. Right. I really think that if he didn't tore his meniscus, The Wizards could have went all the way to the final. I mean, the way he was playing, they were playing fantastic. You could shake your head.
No, come on. Because he was there 2 years, and that Wizards team, he did all he could. He carried them on his back all he could. I mean, he was in a worse situation there because he had absolutely no talent around him. Okay, so he was just like before Pippen got there and when he was younger, those Bulls teams weren't good enough to beat the Celtics or the Pistons. And when he finally got some guys around him, Pippen specifically, when he took that next step. That's what
you just gave your answer. Tom Brady went to a fantastic team with so much talent to say that Tom Brady. You're shaking your head.
Because they wouldn't have won if he wasn't there. They don't win.
Well, hold on one second. You might be right. You might be right, but how would you know that? How would you?
Because of last year.
Now,
they didn't make the playoffs.
This was a different team than they were last year. A completely different team.
But defensively and offensively, there weren't that many additions outside of Gronk on offense that he had.
Was out for the season. He tore his ACL. He was out for the season. His rookie season.
Jameis Winston passed for 5,000 yards with that offense. So they were still a good offense.
They're a better they were a better team this year with Devin. I'm not taking away what Tom Brady did this year. I'm not. And for me to come out and say that you could argue that Tom Brady is the greatest quarterback of all time now, that's saying a lot. By the way, we have a caller, and I know he's been scratching at the bit. What's going on, Jeff?
Dude, you are the only person on the planet slandering Tom Brady today.
No, he's not. He's actually not. There are a
I'm
lot
not
of people
slandering Tom Brady. I haven't been listening to the show. If you're not listening,
Brady gets slandered for his politics now, not because of his play.
He's the GOAT, and this was the greatest Super Bowl run anybody has ever had. He went on the road to Washington. He went into New Orleans and sent Drew Brees into retirement. He went into Lambeau, where nobody wins, and beat the guy you say is the best. Then in the Super Bowl, and he put him in his back pocket.
I'm not going to take away for what he did yesterday in the Super Bowl, even though he didn't have numbers wouldn't show anything. But he didn't play well. He didn't play well against Green Bay in the second half. He didn't, and he didn't play well. He didn't play well against Drew Brees. He didn't play well against the Saints. It was their defense. Their defense dominated. What am I talking about? Go look at what the defense did yesterday. Go watch what 29 times they got into the back of the field. Nobody's ever done that in NFL history. You're talking about the Broncos. You're talking about all those great defenses like the Baltimore Ravens against the New York Giants. And you're going to tell me that this team got behind the line of scrimmage 29 times more than any team in NFL history. So please, Jeff, how about Leonard Fournette running over 120 yards? Okay, so don't give me this crap. Gronkowski get 2 touchdowns.
No, he didn't. No, he didn't. He ran for 89 yards.
Whatever. Oh, I'm sorry. 30 more yards less. He still ran the ball very, very well. And Tom Brady, who threw the ball for 201 yards and 3 touchdowns, was the MVP. To me, he wasn't the MVP. It was the defense. You could have given it to any one of those defensive players. I would have given it to Barrett before I gave it to Tom Brady. Okay, but Tom Brady gets it because he's a quarterback. That's not slandering Tom Brady, because I already just said, if you were listening to me, that I would argue that Tom Brady is one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, if not the greatest. So don't give me this crap.
The greatest.
In your eyes, I still think Montana is. He never lost in the Super Bowl.
If you're just looking for where you came from, Errol, you've taken a big step, I think, knowing where you were at the beginning of the year.
He has more Super Bowl MVPs than Montana has Super Bowls.
Okay.
He does, yes.
Okay, and and how many times did he not deserve the MVP? How about Seattle?
Yeah,
he deserved
do
you think he should have won the MVP there?
It's a dumb argument.
It's not a dumb argument. He should have won the MVP.
But listen, Errol, there are 2 guys that won offensive MVPs in the Super Bowl without scoring a touchdown, in Julian Edelman and Joe Namath. So don't say that, Brady, with throwing 3 touchdowns, 21 for 29, doesn't deserve the MVP. That's a pretty good game.
Yeah, and most of those passes were 5-yard passes.
But there's always an excuse. I mean, it can't always be an excuse.
There's no excuse for you to say
quarterbacks have to throw passes. I mean, you complete 21 out of 29. That's good no matter what kind of passes you're throwing.
I've said it too. I said it when Peyton Manning won the Super Bowl and he won the MVP. He shouldn't have won the MVP. Ask Speedy. I didn't think he should have won the MVP that year. So don't give me the crap. Don't give me the crap.
Against the Bears?
Yes, against the Bears. Against Ryan Grossman.
Right, he played okay, but you're going to give it to the quarterback in a game like that.
Like crap, and the Bears should have won that game.
I should have. They lost 29-17, I think, right? I mean, the Bears were better than the Colts.
Errol, here's the other thing I'm tired of, Errol, is all the hype around Patrick Mahomes. I don't want to hear nothing about Patrick Mahomes.
No, that's not bad. Mahomes is good.
Cooper made it to the end zone before Patrick Mahomes did.
I agree with you. I will say this. Patrick Mahomes, everybody keeps talking about it. He walked out on the field like his head, he thought he was going to win the game. He played like garbage, okay? He played like garbage. You have all those weapons. You have Kelsey. You have Watkins. I know he wasn't 100% healthy, but either was Antonio Brown, and he still caught a touchdown. You had all those weapons, and yes, your offensive line. If you knew your offensive line and your left tackle and right tackle weren't going to play in the game, Andy Reid should have figured something out before the game. You had all this time. You had 2 weeks to figure this out. You're going into the game with your head up your ass. And to me, Patrick Mahomes had a terrible game. For a guy that everybody talks about how great he is, he made some great, unbelievable throws. He was fantastic. Some of the throws that he made were fantastic. This is a guy that everybody keeps saying is the next Tom Brady, the next this, the next that, the next big thing since sliced bread. He laid up a dud. Tom Brady, even in the games that he lost in the Super Bowl, he never laid up a dud like this. Never.
You're going to have bad road play. You're going to have bad playoff games. I mean, Brady's had bad playoff games. Peyton Manning's had Joe Montana. You want to talk about bad playoff games?
Never happened
against the Giants.
Brady never played well. Brady has never played bad in the Super Bowl. He's never. Go look at his numbers. I don't know about play bad, but I mean, he could have done better against the Giants. He didn't throw a touchdown, Mark. He didn't throw one touchdown. He didn't throw one touchdown in this game.
But Mahomes, I know Mahomes played bad, but you're gonna have bad games every once in a while. I mean, Mahomes is very good in the playoffs up until yesterday. I mean, you're allowed one bad game. I mean, he was outstanding his first 7 playoff games. So, you like I said, you want to look up bad. Look at Montana in the mid '80s against the Giants in the playoffs. Awful. I mean, quarterbacks have bad games. Look at Montana against the Vikings in the '87 playoffs. I mean, Bill Walsh almost got fired after that game because they lost. So you're going to have bad games every once in a while in the playoffs. You're playing against great teams. I mean, as embarrassing as it is, Todd Bowles really did a great job last night.
MVP. He was the MVP for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
He did a great job. It's hard to say, a guy that was the Jets head coach. And now, look at him now, all the success he gets. Good for him. But there are things you can't argue anymore. I mean, knowing where you were at the beginning of the year to where you are now, you've taken a large step. You wouldn't even have had this conversation at the beginning of the year or conceded anything. So, I mean, I understand where you're coming from, and I know how you feel about it. I really do. But here's the other thing about Aaron Rodgers, okay? Aaron Rodgers puts together great statistics during the regular season, but he had his shot. Same with Drew Brees. They had their shot. Home games against the guy that they trying to get to, and they lost. You can say, the defense, this and that. Aaron Rodgers had 3 chances to drive and take the lead in that game.
I'm not arguing that, but that also has a lot to do with Tampa Bay's defense.
But it's got a lot to do with everything. There are a lot to do with everything in every game.
This was one of the best playoff runs for a defense to shut down Drew Brees. He wasn't 100% healthy. Aaron Rodgers, the way they did in the fourth quarter, shut him down, was fantastic. And then go against Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl. Everybody talks about, the great Patrick Mahomes. And they completely shut down Patrick Mahomes. Today, you could say, Mahomes is great. In the big game, Mahomes is great. When it came down to the big game and showing everybody, even with the offensive line and the problems that he had in the offensive line, if Mahomes won this game, everybody would have blew up his head. Mahomes deserves a lot to blame in this game.
Yeah, he does.
Mahomes did not look good. He did not look good.
He didn't. We'll see what happens. I mean, if he doesn't come back next year and have a stronger year, this should drive him. Magic Johnson had a bad finals too in '84 against the Celtics. Magic Johnson was awful. They called him Tragic Johnson. handily lost. Have great players have bad games. Okay, how he comes back from this? He's still young. He's barely 25, so he's got a chance. If Andy Reid stays there, and they're able to build, look, Belichick. The dumbest thing he could do was let go of Brady because now everybody knows that it was Brady and it wasn't Belichick. So the Patriot way and all this crap, it was Brady the whole time. That's it. You take him out of it, Patriots.
I don't believe that. That's crap. That's crap. Go ahead, Jeff.
Dude, that's absolute crap. That's crap, dude. If you go back to listen, if you go back to when Brady started, they had such a small playbook. Tom Brady couldn't even throw the football when he started. And yes,
that's why he won the Super Bowl the first year he was there. First year.
Go and look. He almost never threw the football. Go and look.
Don't matter. What were they? With Bledsoe, they did nothing. They were nothing. They were nothing. Patriots were nothing.
Hold on. Mark, they had one of the best defenses in the league, if not the best.
They were nothing. They were nothing. They were nothing. They were 5-11 the year before, 6-10 the year before. They were nothing. They lost to the Bengals first game of the year in 2001.
Okay. And
they
what
were nothing.
Did they do in the Super Bowl?
Turned the whole year around.
What did they do in the Super Bowl? Brady didn't play well in
because of Brady. They won because of Brady. Bottom line, period, end of conversation.
No, they didn't.
Brady.
Yes,
they did. Why were they 0-2 before he took over?
What do you mean 0-2?
They lost to the Bengals in week 1. And then they would have lost to the Jets. Then Brady takes over. They had how many years with Bledsoe? How many years did we see Bledsoe get to the playoffs? Did they beat the Steelers with Bledsoe? They didn't do anything with Bledsoe.
Let Jeff. Go ahead, Jeff. We'll let you speak. Go ahead.
Listen. Brady got better over 20 years and transformed. But when Brady started, he wasn't like this world beater that everyone thought he was. Right? Like he was lucky to be on some good teams, and he got much better as it went along. But when he first started in the league, he got lucky and won a couple of Super Bowls. But the first, he was essentially Trent Dilfer.
You don't get lucky. You don't get lucky like that. He had his first year, his statistics were mediocre. Okay, then his second year they didn't make the playoffs. All right, that was probably the worst you could say about it. From then on, his third and fourth year, you look at his numbers in his 20s, his 30s, and his 40s. Winning percentage is the same. The yardage is a little bit better when you get in his 30s and 40s.
You want to know what, Mark? Yeah. But you want to know what, Mark? Here's the most overlooked thing on the planet.
Good.
And this is why Belichick invented Brady. Because most coaches, name me a coach that goes away from Drew Bledsoe and how good Drew Bledsoe was to go to Brady, who was an unknown. And he basically did that just because of a salary cap move and was like, well, we'll try to win with a nobody rather than a really good player in Bledsoe. But so saying Belichick had nothing to do with it is one of the most retarded things.
Yeah, wait. Okay.
This dude.
What was Belichick's winning percentage before that year?
Oh my God! Are
head coach?
you kidding me?
It's not like he had nobody. I mean, with the Browns and the Patriots, his winning percentage was about .451. I think it was 43-51 as a head coach before
Mark,
that.
Who drafted Tom Brady? Who drafted Tom Brady?
Okay, so he drafted him. Great, but he wouldn't have won with that. Good thing he did because he wouldn't have won unless he was there. How do you do this year? They didn't win this year.
How could
they didn't
you
win the
say
year
that?
Brady wasn't there? They didn't make the play. They missed the playoffs.
You can't say that, Mark. Football.
I can now. I absolutely
It's the ultimate team sport. No, it isn't. And Bill Belichick
has nothing to do with him.
He is
Belichick's just like everyone else.
You say no? That's not true.
Just like everyone else. You give him Brady, you win.
Tom Brady was hurt. He tore his ACL. He was 11-5.
Dude, you're wrong.
No,
Dude,
I'm not wrong.
Belichick will never, ever win again.
11-5. No, Mark.
He's never going to win again. Belichick never won before. He's never going to win again. He won with Brady.
They were 11-5 with Matt Castle.
Yeah, and did they make the playoffs?
No, because of Miami.
Did they make the playoffs with Brady?
No.
Yes. Yes, they do.
Oh, they make.
Yes, they do. They make the playoffs with Brady. 13-3.
Brady, Mark. Nobody's. Go ahead.
How funny is that? You're making an argument that an 11-5 team that didn't make the playoffs is bad.
I didn't.
You just
didn't though. But no, my argument isn't at 11-5 were they good enough to make the playoffs? Yes. But you know what? If Brady was there, they wouldn't have been 11-5. They would have been 14-2 and 13-3 like they were all those other years.
Oh my God, dude! It's like the stupid.
There's no oh my God, dude. I was there. I saw the whole season. They lost to the Jets on a Thursday night. They lost to teams they shouldn't have lost to. because Brady wasn't there. That Brady makes a difference. Like, I'm not saying Belichick sucks. I mean, he's an okay head coach, but he wouldn't have had near the success he had unless Brady was there.
They just had an 8-win season with a quarterback that couldn't throw the football.
Okay, so well, dude, this was all we can judge him on right now. It was this year and before he had Brady. Before he had Brady in this year, that's all you can judge him on.
We have other sample sizes that you can go and look at. They go 11-5 with Matt Castle. Brady
didn't make the playoffs.
Nonsense. They win 2 games with Jimmy Garoppolo, and then they won another game with their third stringer in Jacoby Brissett.
Okay, but now but he had Brady to go to after that, and before that, and since before Brady got there, Belichick was not a winning head coach. He won 1 playoff game. 1. That was against ourselves. 1 playoff game.
First of all, and I hate Bill Belichick.
Literally saying he's not a winning coach because he had a bad season in Cleveland. Who hasn't?
He had 5 bad seasons.
Well, coach, he won with the Giants. He's won other places.
He wasn't a head coach with the
He
Giants.
was defensive coordinator. He's the reason why the Giants won those Super Bowls.
Well, okay, yeah, there are good coordinators. North Turner was a great coordinator. Was a horrible head coach.
So wait a second.
Todd Bowles is a great coordinator.
Wait a second, Mark. So you're telling me Bill Belichick won 6 titles and he has nothing to show for that? He's nothing. Those defenses that he built, his defenses that he built, those players that he drafted, including Tom Brady, No, get out of here. Come on, Mark.
Those defenses,
man, you lost your mind, man.
Those defenses that allowed the game to go ahead and score to the Giants in both Super Bowls, that allowed the game time score in Rams against the Carolina Panthers.
Jet fan, by the way.
Come on now.
Jet fan.
It's had nothing to do. I'm impartial. It's got nothing to do with this or that. I have
I'll go back and say it. Tom Brady isn't Michael Jordan, nor will he ever be. So you can say whatever you want. He's not Michael Jordan. So Michael Jordan could have won 8 championships in a row if he didn't retire. He was that good. He was that good of a player. And yes, he went to the Wizards and he didn't win. But look at the team that he went to. He went to a crappy team. Tom Brady went to a very talented team. And I'm not saying Tom Brady doesn't deserve all the credit for what he did this year. He deserves all of it. He's definitely a big part of why they won.
But he really does deserve most of the credit, though, right? Because for the most part, this was the same exact team that was there last year, and they couldn't make the playoffs last year.
That's right. Yeah, that's the way I feel. I mean, I just think he was it. Like, there's no secret. He goes there, they win. They win 3 road playoff games. I mean, even that is hard to do.
I mean, people can say Gronkowski was an addition, but if we're being honest with ourselves, Gronkowski, and he had a great game last night, but for most of the season was an inline blocker.
Yeah, he was. I'm not going to say that, but I also said Gronkowski was going to have 2 touchdowns in the game. I also said that if they were going to win, Leonard Fournette's going to have a fantastic game. And I also said they were going to put a lot of pressure on Patrick Mahomes if they're going to win the game. All those things that I said was going to happen they happened.
But if I had told you on Saturday that Chris Godwin and Mike Evans were going to combine for 3 catches for 40 yards, Tampa's a loser.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. If you watch the first quarter and a half, most of those penalties came from Mike Evans. I mean, they couldn't stop Mike Evans. Every time Mike Evans the ball was thrown to him, there was a penalty. And I thought the penalties were ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous in the first half. You watched the Green Bay
tackling a guy.
If you watch the
guy that's wide
the
open,
ball, he had no chance of catching the ball. The ball was far, far away. It was at least 10 feet away from him. It wasn't even close to him.
That ball landed 2 yards.
Oh, come on, Jeff. It wasn't even close when he fell. It wasn't even close. There was a lot of calls in the first half that I could shake my head. I didn't understand it. You watched the Green Bay Packer game. People were holding, pulling people. You could have stuck your tongue down somebody's ear, in their ear, and they wouldn't have called a penalty in that game. And then all of a sudden, you watch the Super Bowl, the first half of the game, there were penalties all over the field, but there were no penalties against Devin White when he was grabbing people on the shoulder pad. There was no penalties there. So I'm sorry. I'm going to say whatever you want. I'm going to give Brady all the credit all in the world, which I did. But to tell me that the play call, the calls from the referees were fair, I'm sorry, they weren't. They were not fair.
Listen, I got something for you guys. Okay,
all you want about the pass interference calls, and you could have an argument on some of them for sure. But the biggest penalty all night is a no-brainer penalty all the time. And it's the same thing that got Andy Reid in trouble when they played in the AFC Championship game. How does anyone think Andy Reid's a good football coach when he doesn't even know how to tell people how to line up on sides?
Andy Reid's a great coach. I mean, come on. Listen, Errol, who's he? I'm sorry, guy. What's
line up on
Jeff?
Sides? What are you doing?
Jeff. Okay, Jeff. Thanks for joining us, Jeff. I mean, making good points here. But let me bring up one more point too. All right. The Buccaneers this year did something only 4 other teams did. The 80 Raiders, the 2005 Steelers, 2011 Giants, 2010 Packers, which is win 3 road playoff games and get to the Super Bowl and win it. Okay, so that's another thing he did. So there are a lot of things that happened this year that he did that very few people did before, and that doesn't happen often. So it's another thing that you can add for this was unique. And this is the reason why he is as great as he is. So there's really no argument you can make for him not being the greatest quarterback ever. That's a given. But to me, his consistency and still at 43, like you mentioned with Jordan, even if Jordan got hurt or whatever, Brady's ability to stay healthy, Brady's ability to keep his body in great shape, have
nobody's taking it away from him.
All these things at his age.
You sound like you want to ride him like a friggin' bull. I mean,
No,
seriously.
It's because I'm impartial. Because he's 44 and
He's
he's
impartial
doing
to
these
him. He's
things
fantastic.
that nobody's done. Nobody has done this.
Fantastic. What do you want to say? He's fantastic. Again, I'm not going to say
That's
that.
why I'm saying he's the best.
He's not. He's not Michael Jordan. He's not the greatest athlete of all time. You made that take.
Jordan
I'm
didn't
sorry.
do that, though.
He's not. Michael Jordan
couldn't do that. Jordan at 38 couldn't do that.
Michael Jordan won back-to-back-to-back championships twice. Okay,
Okay.
And probably would have won
His mid-30s.
He would have won 8 in a row. 8. And by the way, if Michael Jordan played at 38 years old on that Bulls team in 99, 2000, they would have won the championship in that short season too. They were that good. So
Maybe.
don't give me that crap.
But
Don't give me
maybe.
that crap.
But Brady went to a different team and won. So the difference between Brady and Jordan to me is Brady at this age, in his 40s, not even in his 30s.
Basketball is different. Basketball is
still doing it.
Basketball
That's a clear difference, though. That's a clear difference, though, Errol. That's a clear difference.
Go ahead, Jeff.
All right, here's what I would just say to you on the Jordan versus Brady thing, and it's harder to do, to compare, from sport to sport. But here's the thing, Errol. It's so infinitely easier for one person to affect basketball. You're one guy on the field with 10. And if you get a LeBron, if you get a James Harden, if you get a Kevin Durant, you're infinitely closer to a championship because one guy is easier to affect the game.
In these days, not in those days. Not in those days. Not in those days.
Brady, because one person in Tom Brady is affecting a sport like he is, which is infinitely harder to do in football. How can you not give Brady credit?
I'm not.
Might as well
hold on. Again, I'm not gonna say that I'm not giving him credit. He's one of the greatest athletes of our era. But Michael Jordan is the greatest I have ever seen. He is the greatest because Michael Jordan, in the time that Michael Jordan was dominant, the game was different than it is today. Maybe now today, I would say that. I would argue that. Yes, I would argue that.
How many rings does Jordan have again?
He has 6. He has
How many
6.
does Brady have?
7. But Brady, again, you can look at rings. You look at rings. It doesn't make you the greatest of all time. It's the way they played. It's the way they did it in the playoffs. He did it. Michael Jordan never went to a game seven in the finals. Never did. Never did. It never even came close. And he played against great teams, great players. Michael Jordan played probably the greatest era when it comes to basketball and talent. Okay.
Well, I don't know. He would have had a hard time going through the 80s. He would have had a hard time.
No, he wouldn't have. No, he wouldn't have.
He would have had a hard time going through
right now. Right now, in his
no, not now. In the 80s, going through the Celtics and Lakers, he would have had a hard time.
In his prime, no way. In his prime, no way. With Michael,
Karl Malone and John Stockton were great players. They weren't Larry Bird and they weren't Magic Johnson. I mean, I would have liked to see them play the Rockets if he wouldn't have retired, but
he would have beaten the Rockets.
See it.
He would have beaten the Rockets.
Well, we didn't get to see it. That's the point.
Go look at his record against Olajuwon and the Rockets when he was playing.
Dude, Olajuwon's one of the only guys that Jordan really feared.
Just go look at his record against Olajuwon.
I know what they are.
What's his record? What's his record?
I know what he did.
What's his record?
He didn't do very well against Olajuwon and the Rockets. That's why they were saying that they couldn't beat him. You ask anybody on a Rockets, they say they would have won. You ask anybody on Bulls, they say they would have won. So, but Olajuwon was one guy Jordan definitely respected, more than he respected Ewing, more than he respected Barkley, more than he respected these other guys he beat routinely. Okay, so I just think that in the 90s, that group, getting through the East in the 90s wasn't that hard. It was a lot harder getting through the Pistons and the Celtics when he started, but the Knicks were okay. They weren't a great team. And the Pacers probably were better than the Knicks, but even they were limited. I mean, they lost to the Knicks in 99, an 8 seed, without Patrick Ewing. So Jordan didn't have to go through the creme de la creme that Magic and Bird did in the 80s. He really didn't. That's not taking away from them winning. I'm just saying that he didn't beat great teams in the finals. Even the Sonics in 96, they only made it to that one final. So it's not like they were always there. It's always like you had just great, excellent teams always getting there.
I don't know how you could say that Michael Jordan. I'm listening to this. I'm losing my mind. I want to pull my hair out.
I'm saying he didn't beat great teams in the final.
Yes, he did.
He did. He did. You can compare the Jazz. So you can compare the Jazz. You can compare the Jazz of the 90s to the Lakers of the 80s or the Celtics of the 80s. That's what I'm comparing him to.
He beat Magic Johnson. Why did Magic Johnson come out and say he's the greatest basketball player he's ever? Larry Bird said it. Hakeem Olajuwon
said it. Jordan is the greatest basketball player ever. No doubt about that.
The greatest athlete of all time.
They didn't beat the greatest basketball player.
Athlete.
Okay, well, if they said athlete, then they said athlete. But he's the greatest basketball player in my mind, no doubt. But the Lakers of the 80s, even when Magic made it in 91, that wasn't the Lakers of the 80s. I mean, the Lakers were still good. And you know what? If Magic didn't retire, they might have been able to come back and beat Jordan one of those.
You're out of your mind. You've lost your mind.
Dude, Errol, I know what I'm talking about. I watched the games in the 80s and 90s.
That's fine. I watched a lot of basketball was my sport. And I was a hockey player. Out of all the sports, I watched basketball before all of them, even hockey. And I started playing hockey when I was 5. I started watching basketball when I was 6 years old. I loved basketball. It was my favorite sport. And I would tell you this right now. I hated Michael Jordan just as much as I hated Tom Brady. And now when Michael Jordan retired, I realized I watched the greatest athlete of all time, the greatest sports athlete I've ever seen. Okay. And the same thing with Tom Brady. When he's done, I'll probably go back and say, you know what? I got to watch Tom Brady in the prime of his career and say, you know what? Tom Brady, you can argue that Tom Brady is the greatest quarterback to ever play the game. So again,
no, you'll never be able to make that. You'll never be able to make that argument. The greatest quarterback of all time is the same guy that had as many touchdowns as Patrick Mahomes yesterday, and that's Dak Prescott.
Jeff, what do you think about it? Jeff, do you remember the teams of the 80s at all?
Yes, he does.
Oh, of course. Yeah, I loved a lot of those teams. For me, if you want to go in, I guess it's still early 80s, but whatever. Maybe the most underrated quarterback of all time might be Dan Fouts. I love some of those 80s quarterbacks.
San Diego Chargers. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, but Fouts was good. Definitely ahead of his times. But Fouts, when they lost in 78 or 79 to the Oilers, they lost to the Oilers when the Oilers didn't have Earl Campbell or Dan Pastorini or Kenny Burroughs. And they lost in San Diego when he was intercepted by Vernon Perry 4 times. And they were 12-4 that year, the Chargers. They should have gotten to the Super Bowl that year. So, and I love Fouts, but Fouts had some stinkers too.
Mark, do you realize since 1997, Tom Brady has more NFC championships than the Dallas Cowboys do?
Do you realize? Do you realize that Tom Brady has more playoff wins than every franchise in the NFL except for the Steelers?
Good, and nobody's taking that away from him. I'm not taking away from him. I'm not taking away from him. I'm just saying he's not the greatest athlete to ever play the game in professional sports. That's all I'm saying. When Tyler Harrison comes out, and Tyler Harrison, I will say this on live radio, Tyler Harrison doesn't know his ass from his tailbone, okay? And he comes out on social media and posting up that Tom Brady is the GOAT in all sports. He's the greatest athlete to ever play in professional sports. Tyler, you never watched Michael Jordan play. Tyler, you probably don't even know your ass from your tailbone, so I wouldn't even take your word for it if you told me and I was bold and I was an idiot and I was blind and I couldn't hear, okay? I wouldn't listen to you.
Do you realize that if Tom Brady were to win one more Super Bowl, he would have double the amount of Super Bowl rings as both Eli and Peyton Manning? And Tom Brady doesn't even have a brother to even beat in this fight. We're talking the entire Manning family. He's got way more rings.
You still got kids coming up that might play in the NFL. So.
Well, his son, Cooper's
nephew.
son.
Yeah, the nephew is.
Yeah, he's good.
Yeah.
But listen, Errol, one thing, okay? The Pistons of the 90s, early 90s, late 80s, they were very good too. I mean, do you really think that those teams weren't better than the teams in like the Utah Jazz or the Indiana Pacers? You really think that
you don't give the Utah Jazz any credit, Mark.
Because they didn't win a title, and because I thought they were overrated.
Because they couldn't beat Michael Jordan. They beat everybody in the Western Conference.
They didn't get there. The years Jordan wasn't there.
That's it.
The years Jordan wasn't there, they didn't even get to the finals. 94, 95, no Jordan, no
94, 95. And well, if you remember, 94, John Stockton was injured practically half the season.
No.
Yes, he was. Yes, he was. Mike,
Errol, come on now, Errol.
Come now,
you can't always have an excuse for this or that or that. Look, Malone and Stockton were great, but they're on like the Ewing level, okay? And that doesn't mean that they're not Hall of Famers. It's just that they're not Jordan, they're not Bird, they're not Magic. Those teams of the 80s, even the Sixers in the early 80s, with Moses Malone, Dr. J, could have been Dr. Dre, Andrew Toney, Mo Cheeks, those were great teams too. They were better than the 90s teams. There's really no argument, I don't think, for the 80s Celtics, 80s Lakers, 80s Sixers compared to the teams in the 90s that played the Bulls, whether it be the Sonics or the Jazz.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even the Suns team with Barkley, they were, they won 60 games that year and then didn't make it back.
Barkley, that was a good team.
It was. But
Barkley was the MVP that year.
Yeah, but those were special teams. The Lakers and the Celtics of the 80s and the Sixers of the 80s, those were really special teams. It's hard to say. I don't understand how anybody could say it, but it's really hard to say that they were better than the teams in the 90s. I don't think there's even a comparison.
Michael Jordan would have won.
Hanging out with you guys tonight?
Speedy's there. Yeah, he's listening.
Yeah, I know. Speedy's being quiet.
Speedy's listening. He's learning. He's listening. But go ahead.
I wanted to ask Speedy, we were told that this would have been the Cowboys' second
This guy must hate the Cowboys.
Do you know what Cowboy has made it to the last two Super Bowls? Tony Romo.
That's right. Tony's got a Super Bowl now.
Oh yeah, it's just not
Couldn't beat the Giants. Couldn't beat the Giants though in 2007.
By the way, the guy that ran on the field yesterday,
RW reporters.
that was hilarious.
Did you see that story?
Yes, I saw that story. Yep, he's trying to promote a porno site.
Who?
No, dude. No. So he got because all the prop bets, and one of the prop bets was, will there be a streaker? And he put $50K down at plus 750. He made $374,000 after bailing him and his buddy out of jail. Because that's what he did.
That's great. That is so funny.
He was having lunch today at J. Alexander's, which is a restaurant here in town. He was having lunch and told the story to a bunch of people after just being bailed out of jail.
Hey. Each his own, I guess. It's a bad way to think of it. You do that next episode.
If I actually went to the Super Bowl, I probably would have done it for $375,000.
This town was on fire last night. This town was amazing last night.
I'm sorry?
This town was great last night. It was so awesome.
Yeah.
Ridiculous. Home Super Bowl, baby. Only Tom Brady gets one.
Anyways, Jeff, thank you, man.
Yeah, thank you, Jeff.
Mark, we'll talk some more. You're a little sketchy sometimes, but it's always fun joining you fellas.
Thanks, Jeff. We'll talk.
Take care.
Look at these.
Jeff from Tampa. I love him. He's got some personality. I'll tell you this. He's this Patriot fan, and listen, he has his own thoughts. Everybody has their own opinion. I'm not going to take shots at Jeff's thoughts. If he thinks Tom Brady's the greatest, that's his opinion. Your opinion it varies. You think he's the greatest? That's fine. That's your opinion. My opinion, I think Joe Montana is still the greatest quarterback to ever play the game. I can argue now that Tom Brady can argue that. You can argue that Tom Brady's the greatest. That is my argument to that. I don't think that Peyton Manning is any, you can't say that Peyton Manning's as good or better than Tom Brady anymore. I think Tom Brady is by himself now. Right there. You can argue either 2 or 1. I argue that he's 2. That's my opinion. And
how do you guys like how you look on TV down here? Got a lot of good fans down here.
I loved it. I first of all, I love you, man. We fight, we argue. I love what you're doing, and I love everything about you. I want you. I'm hoping that you come back home soon so we can see you, and spend some time. I know you've been through a lot of hardship, and I'm glad that you're on your 2 feet and everything's going good for you.
Yeah, it's been a tough year. But
you're alive, man. I know what Sammy passing away. I know that was hard for you. I know with everything happening with your family, and you have to move into Alabama, you can't see your girlfriend. Because of the situation with her son. I think with all the trials and tribulations you've been through, and the fact that you're still on your 2 feet, it's pretty amazing. I give you a lot of credit, man. You're a good-hearted person. I know you're 100% for us, and I'm happy you're still with us. And I love the person that you are. You're a good person. You're a good, kind-hearted person. Anybody that knows you and knows the personality that you are, you deserve all the credit in the world of all the hard work and dedication you put in, and the situations that you've been in your lifetime, and that you're still on your 2 feet and you're still living. You're still living. You're still doing the things that you're doing. I think it's an amazing story. You deserve all the credit in the world.
Thank you. You too, guys. I mean, I think the world that you beat each other. So, Errol, definitely one of the kindest people I know. When people get to know you, your personality on the radio is one thing, but people who know Errol, the things he does behind the scenes. Same Speedy. What I love about Speedy is not too many guys. He really gets a kick out of it. Like, look at those two talking. Me and Speedy will just go and we'll talk about the most random sports things because we both love sports. So, Thanks for having me on again, guys. And
every
I want to have more
every Monday. Every
like
Monday.
Ryan and some of the other guys on too down here.
Absolutely.
So and then we'll have you back as well.
Yeah, man, absolutely. We would love to come on, and I love, like I said, Ryan. Again, Ryan's a very talented guy and an interesting personality himself. He needs to find that personality sometimes. I tell that to Ryan all the time. He's an amazing host of a radio show. I just think his personality. And I tell him, every time I go on his show, I try to bring out his personality because it's definitely raw. That's for sure. But everything about him, he's a star, and he has a great knack for sports, and his thoughts and his opinions are very interesting, to say the least. So
I miss him, man. I miss him. I miss doing the show.
Yeah, he's a unique dude, that's for sure. And he's happy. He loves doing his show, the hickeys pickies and all his crazy stuff that he does. But talented kid, and I'm happy. All the hard work and dedication that he puts into this, it's going to pay off with us. That's for sure. I really do believe it. So
you guys are doing great. You got a lot of good stuff. You got a lot of good shows. You can see just how much you've grown even since I've been there. Keep it up, man. I love you guys. Thanks for having me on, and we'll continue this debate. Always fun to talk about.
Absolutely, I love it. Mark Kelly, ladies and gentlemen, good friend, brother, good personality, good-hearted person. He really is. And yes, I am a unique individual on the radio. That's for sure. But in person,
no doubt about it.
Yeah, I'm a crazy person. Anybody that knows me, I'm a crazy person. But I would give you my shirt off my back if you needed it. I'm not a harsh person. I just have my own opinions to sports. My personality varies in different days, on different days. But all in all, I like to have fun, and my opinions are my opinions. And if you like it, if you don't like it, you can listen to it and argue with me. If you like it, good for you. I could care less. But that's just me. And like Mark always says, he's like, as a personality in a radio show, it varies. And, as a person off air, you're one of the nicest people you ever meet. And I want people to realize that, this isn't me on the radio is me. My personality is me. I'm not going to change who I am for nobody. But I have a very distinct thought when it comes to sports. And I'm gonna come out and say whatever I want to say because that's my opinion. Your opinion varies to me. If you think that Tom Brady's the greatest, that's your opinion. That's great. I honestly, I'll put him there now. You can argue that, but I still take Joe Montana, and that's just me. You don't have to agree with me, but when a guy has gone to a Super Bowl 4 times and never lose, I'm taking the guy that's never lost. And that's Tom Brady's lost 3 championships. Nevertheless, he won 7, and that's pretty amazing by itself. But he lost 3, and he lost 2 against the same team. So, yeah. So, and that's all I'm going to say. And by the way, probably his greatest run was when he lost his 2007 Super Bowl. Okay, and he lost. He was undefeated going into that game, and he lost against the Giants. So I'm just saying, speaking the truth. I will, Speedy will give his underwear just like Carl says, and I will not. But I really appreciate all the fans that listen to our show. We definitely went over our time, but listen. With everything that we do with sports and media and the passion that we have on our network, I want everybody to realize that what we do here is to entertain people, and what you see is what you get on this show. I'm not fake. I am who I am. I have my own opinion towards it. If you like me, you hate me, I'm happy that you're listening to me either way. So that's all that matters to me. Keep listening. Keep listening to our network. We are growing. We're going to have some new shows coming to the network in the next couple of weeks. I'm very excited about it. And like I said, there's a lot of great things going to happen very, very soon, and I will announce it when it does come to fruition. And when it does, you guys are going to be very proud of what I've been doing and what I've been doing for this network. So I'm very excited for the future of the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. I'd like to thank Cruz Oxenreider from the Cruise Control podcast show. Yes, he was really, really cool kid. Also, talking to Joseph David and Brennan Detzler from the Sens podcast. Very, very nice guys too. The New Era Sens podcast. So very, very interesting two fellas that know their hockey and know their Ottawa Senators. So interesting. Definitely would love to get them on again. A shout out to Mark Kelly, good friend, personality, definitely stands out. Him thinking that Tom Brady is the greatest athlete of all time. I think he's on drugs, but that's just my opinion. Tom Brady was terrible at the combine. There's no athletic ability whatsoever. So how is he the greatest athlete of all time? I don't know. Maybe one of the greatest winners of all time. No question that he is. But greatest athlete, I would definitely hold up on saying that. That's for sure. Mm-hmm. And Tyler Harrison's an idiot. That's all I'm going to say about that. And Brian Snow taking shots at me on his show. You can kiss my ass too. I'm just kidding, Brian. Just kissing. I'm just kissing. Just kidding, Brian. I love you, man. But, it was funny. And I will say this before we go. Tyler was on Brian's show, and I think Tyler and Brian are going to be doing a podcast together. That's what I'm hearing. And Tyler was on, and he was introduced, and Brian says, "Who took the mic out of your hands?" And then Tyler was laughing, and didn't say anything. Didn't say anything because I know he wanted to say me. I didn't. Just so all you fans know, I didn't take the mic out of Tyler's hand. Never did. Tyler took the mic out of his hand. And that's the facts. And if Tyler lies about that, Tyler can come on the show anytime he wants and he can challenge me on that. I never took the mic out of his hand. Never did. I always wanted to keep Tyler. I know he was for this network. I love Tyler as a person. But for Tyler to laugh and giggle and make it seem like I was the one that took the mic out of his hands, that is a crap of you-know-what. So that's a fallout of bull, and that's all I'm going to say about that. And if Tyler, like I said, anybody from any of the network shows that we've had in the past has anything to say derogatory about me as a leader, as a radio guy, and as a person that doesn't stand out for the guys in the network, they're liars, and it's a bunch of crap. And that's all I'm going to say about that. But Tyler can come back whenever he wants if he came back to me and he talked to me. That's Tyler's decision, and there were other reasons why behind it on why Tyler decided to take the mic out of his hand. And that's all I'm going to say. Speedy, do you have anything to say before we go?
Quite the arguments you and Mark had for sure. That's probably the longest we ever had, 3 times.
Well, Mark and me, we like to go back and forth, and Mark, like Mark would say, I try not to give him any time to speak, even though I do. So he claims I don't give him any time to speak when he conquers the mic when he talks. So I don't know. But again, I'd like to thank all the fans that listen to our show on our network. Carl, one of our biggest fans. Love Carl. And yes, Mikey C does like the Oreos in his keister. That's for damn sure. Well, in everybody else's keister. But maybe we stick it in Speedy's keister. Maybe why not? You have the tidy whities. He likes those.
No, I don't.
Yes, you do. You like to go commando. And shout out to Jeff for joining us. Definitely a good intake of his thoughts of Tom Brady's greatness. Blah. And, Tom Brady, and you'll hear it again from me from now on. Tom Brady is, you can argue, is the greatest quarterback to ever play the game. You can argue it. I wouldn't argue it, but he's there. He's there. There's nothing. Peyton Manning is not Tom Brady anymore. Peyton Manning's on a whole nother level. Tom Brady is on a whole nother level than Peyton Manning. 7 championships in 10 tries. One of the greatest runs we've ever seen a quarterback, any player in professional sports do. And that will never take away, no matter how much I hate him. That's all I'm going to say about them. We will be back on Wednesday for Below the Mic. Until then, this is Errol Marks and the great Speedy Petey. Oh, and by the way, Speedy, who do we have on Wednesday, by the way? Who do we have on Wednesday? You don't know yet?
No.
Nothing? Really? Jillian hasn't given you any intake on that?
Not yet.
I'm surprised. Jillian likes to, give us a little of her thoughts. But anyways, we'll be back on Wednesday. We'll have special guests, I'm sure. Very excited for the future of this network. And if you're all fans or anybody tunes into any of our shows, keep tuning in. There's a lot of great things that is going to happen to this network. And I promise you guys, everybody that is a part of it is going to win something while listening. So definitely stay tuned for that. Until then, until Wednesday, this is Errol Marks, Speedy Petey saying good night. We'll talk to you then. Good night, everybody.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.